No sé si se me escucha bien. Sí, sí, efectivamente. Buenas tardes, bienvenidos al primer congreso de psicología del
Right, good
deporte.
evening, everybody. Welcome to
Estamos,
the
la verdad es que un
first
poquito nerviosos y
Sports
también contentos de estar
Psychology
aquí habiendo
conference.
organizado esto.
We're a
Saludamos
little bit
a todas las personas que
nervous,
están en streaming también,
I have
muchísimo.
to say.
Aquí estamos María y yo, que están
Um,
al otro lado,
hasn't been easy to
pero
organize
con
this. I'd
mucho
like to
interés de
extend a warm
darle que
welcome
vamos a
to
tener
all
aquí
those of you
hablando de
who are
psicología del deporte.
streaming this
Lo primero
event
que voy a hacer
online this
es
afternoon, evening here. We'll be talking
sentir
about
y
sports
expresar el honor que siento
psychology,
por estar
but
en este
first things
momento y en
first.
esta situación,
I just like to
puesto
say that I'm
que los años
deeply
que me han
honored
traído hasta llegar
to
hoy
be
aquí son años de trabajo de
here
muchas personas
right
como
now. This
vosotros,
is
que
the
sois
culmination
psicólogos del
of
deporte,
many, many
o
years
algunos
of
ya, otros
work
de
from
camino,
people like you,
y con mucha
sports
ilusión por dar un
psychologists or
espacio a la
sports
profesión y por
psychologists in training.
desarrollar
And we've decided to
pues
organize
lo que
this conference to
hay por
simply talk about
delante,
the
¿no?
profession on the one hand, but on the other hand,
En
to
especial un
also
reconocimiento también
discuss what we have
a
in
los
store
ponentes que ahora
for
os
the future.
presentaremos
I'd like to
y
thank our
agradecidos de tenerlos
panelists
aquí.
and speakers. We're honored and grateful to have them here with us today. Microphone, please. Microphone, please.
Igual tienes que darle ahí.
Ahora.
Ahora
Bueno,
suena mejor.
empiezo de nuevo.
Very
Estaba
well.
diciendo que durante las próximas horas
Yes, so I was saying
exploraremos
that over the
diversas
next few
perspectivas sobre la
hours,
psicología deportiva de
we'll
la
be
mano
talking about
de
different
expertos del ámbito.
aspects of
Ahí nos
sports
acompañan
psychology.
profesionales
We'll be talking
apasionados que
to
nos van a compartir sus
a few
conocimientos y
experts,
experiencias
passionate
sobre esta
experts
disciplina
that
que
will be
está en
sharing with you
constante
their
crecimiento
experiences
dentro del mundo del deporte.
in this ever-growing discipline in the world of sports. Regarding format, as you know, this conference will last about 3 hours. It will be both theoretical and practical in nature. There will be a round table where we'll be sharing our expertise and knowledge with you, and then a hands-on session where you'll be able to interact with our speakers. Very well then. I'd like to call this meeting to order then. Let me introduce you to our first. Few of them are on the way. There's a bit of traffic, unfortunately, out there. The current roundtable is made up of, well, us. The first one I'd like to introduce to you is Carolina. Carolina Navarro. For many of you, she requires no presentation, really. I'm more than proud of having her here with us today because she is a former top of the ranking paddle player. She's won many, many tournaments. She has a BA in PE and sports science, and she keeps on winning. In fact, she's here by nothing short of a miracle because, well, she's on the way over to Dubai, where she's expected to win yet another competition. Then we have Mr. Ganado from Real Madrid basketball. Many of you already know him. He's been your teacher before, after all, and if he hasn't, he will in the future, many others. And you'll see throughout today's event how big of an expert he is in sports psychology. And of course, I'm very, very happy to have him here with us today. For the past 2 years, we have been working together to design some new things that he'll be sharing with you today. And then we have Miguel. Miguel's not here yet. Miguel Santalaya, he's on his way. He's a great expert on sports psychology, unfortunately currently stuck in a traffic jam. And then we have Jorge Tambrano left of me and Luis Barral to my right. The three of us together, to the best of our abilities, attempt to direct the sports psychology department of the Real Madrid University School. And of course, we owe both of them a huge debt of gratitude if today's event was at all possible. So without further ado, Carolina, over to you. It's been a while since I was here last, but this is where I actually graduated in sports science, so this is my home. Well, it's not been that long, has it? Question for you. In your experience as a high-performance athlete, how has sports psychology evolved over the years? How important is it in the world of sports today? I was actually the first player to have a sports psychology to boot. In paddle, as you know, technique, tactics, the physical component and the mental component, important aspects of the game. But really, the psychological aspect of it all is really what causes certain athletes to truly stand out. Because when we play a game, we're constantly grappling with a lot of emotions. And those who are able to better handle the nerve are those who eventually claim the win for themselves. And again, as I was saying to you earlier, after I got injured during a game, the Spanish Federation, assigned a sports psychology to me. And since then, well, the role played by sports psychologists has become increasingly important. Nowadays, almost all players have one, really, because truly it is extremely important for athletes, especially ahead of an important competition, for example. And if you had to name the greatest mental challenge that you had to face as an elite high-performance athlete, what would it be? Well, I've had many challenges to face really throughout my career. I've gone through a number of different stages as an athlete. When I started out, I was actually a tennis player. But then I quit tennis because at the same time I was studying as well. I was a student. And that's when I switched to paddle. And I began to compete in the paddle, but only as a hobby. But over time, I got better. I moved here to Madrid, and I got a phone call from the then top ranked athlete in Spain, Emanuela Silvela. Well, and that was really the first challenge I had to face. It was the first high pressure moment I had to face. After that, I won the Spanish championship. I was the top ranked athlete in the world for 9 years straight. And, you know, when you're up there, you have a lot of pressure to deal with because obviously your goal is to win and everybody expects you to. And I'd only get headlines anymore whenever I'd lose. But that's a lot of pressure, as you can imagine. And, you know, the sheer effort it requires year after year to stay on top is huge. So I got a scholarship here at the university. It was a joint scholarship between the university and the Higher Council for Sports here in Spain. And if I wanted to keep getting it year after year, I had to keep on winning. So that was added pressure. Then I started slumping in the ranking, started going down in the ranking. That affected me, I'm not going to lie. But I've had to deal with pressure throughout my entire career. When I was at the top, because I had to stay at the top. And then when I lost the top spot, I had to deal with pressure because it is difficult to lose that. I was getting lots of bad headlines, bad press. And then, of course, injuries. There's injuries as well, but I'll tell you more about it later. No, that's great because I think you've brought to the table most of the things really that an athlete has to deal with in their career. Wins, losses, injuries. Injuries are an interesting thing. We've got Anna here, who's head of the sports psychology department, and she focuses in her research on that. Injuries. She'll be telling us more about it later. But anyway, You just said that you've had a psychologist from, well, since day one, really. Have you, do you believe that sports psychology as a discipline has evolved, changed over the years?
Para mí sí. Como te digo antes,
In
mucha
my
gente no creía
opinion,
en los
it
psicólogos.
has. Early on, I don't think people
Habrá
much
gente
believed in
todavía que lo crea,
psychology, really.
pero es
And
cierto que,
some people still don't
como te
believe in
digo,
sports
los
psychology.
jugadores de pádel poquito a poco empezaron a creer en la
But
figura del
paddle
psicólogo
players, little by
y
little,
se ha demostrado
started
que al
believing
final ayuda.
in
A mí me ha
psychology, and it has been
ayudado,
shown that it
o
does
sea,
help
a mí me ha salvado la carrera
psychology. For
en
me
muchos momentos. Es
specifically, I
una
can
de
tell
las
you that
profesiones que tuve
it's
que te lo
saved
contaré
my
en el
career,
momento que encarte,
really.
porque
I've
realmente
had two
fue muy
main
fuerte y fue
injuries to
por
deal
eso
with,
mismo me fui al psicólogo
and
por el tema de la
those were
lesión.
tough. And
Y
that's
para mí se
actually
ha cambiado
why
sobre todo
I
la
was
creencia en que los
assigned a
jugadores
sports
se pueden ir al psicólogo. Y
psychologist in
luego
the
también ha
first
aparecido
place.
la figura del coach,
Um,
que bueno,
Now,
también
alongside
está,
psychologists, nowadays we've
ha
got coaches
aparecido y
as
también la
well.
gente confía
Uh,
yo creo que
that
por
popped up a
ese
while back,
elemento.
and nowadays psychologists and coaches work hand in hand, really. Thank you. We have Miguel Sandolaya here. Told you he was on the way. He's here now. He's a psychologist. He has a lot of experience in sports psychology, especially in the context of hospitalizations and hospitals. He's a specialist in applied psychology. He's worked with elite athletes here at the university. He is a lecturer in many of our programs. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Can you hear me now? Yes. So first off, sorry, I'm late. There's a reason. I got here late. I had class early this morning, and then this afternoon, I was actually working with one of my athletes. It was a bit of an emergency session. I'm truly sorry I'm late, but this is one of the things you have to deal with in our trade. Sometimes circumstances simply overcome you, and you have to adapt. And it is then that we have to show what we're capable of for the sake of our athletes. We can plan as much as you want, but sometimes that's simply not enough. And we have to adapt. We have to adapt the tools we use to the circumstances as well. So that's why I'm late, and I'm very, very sorry. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation. No worries at all. Well, we were listening to Carolina just now. In your opinion, what is sports psychology all about, and how has it changed over the years? Because you've been at this for a few years, haven't you? Yes, I have. I actually worked in oncology wards in hospitals here in Madrid for many, many years, and in doing that, I realized how important mental health really is. Working with oncology patients, I realized how important mental health is, especially when it goes hand in hand with physical therapy and treatments of that kind for oncological patients. After that experience, I took a master's in sports psychology. Shortly after that, I started teaching, and I further specialized in the treatment, the psychological treatment of injuries, as well as other aspects, really, of our trade, teaching, lecturing, applied psychology, psychology applied to high-performance athletes, specifically in various different sports. For disabled athletes as well, that's also very, very interesting, I have to say. So there are several different branches out there that you can work in as a sports psychology. High performance sports is just one of them, but there are lots, and they're all equally interesting. Well, thank you so much, Miguel. as you can see, I'm taking a step back here. You're shining, it's your turn to shine, your turn to have the spotlight on you. When an elite athlete, a high-performance athlete, comes to you with an injury, how do you deal with that? Because that is a difficult moment for athletes. So how do you deal with that? What is important to do? What is your angle? What is your perspective to deal with that? Well, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but the first thing you always have to bear in mind is that we're working here with people first and then with athletes. High-performance athletes are very, very demanding of themselves. And because of that, often they risk sort of losing sight of their identity as people, but they can't afford to do that really. And I don't know if you agree with me. But when an athlete gets injured, all of a sudden they start to think, well, if I can't perform to the best of my abilities, who am I as a person? So the first thing you have to do when that happens is you have to listen to them. And then after you do that, you've got to take on a multidisciplinary approach, which is what I like to do, to work alongside physical therapists, doctors, physicians, and provide a holistic approach to solve the issue. But first of all, you have to listen to them. I asked Carolina what the biggest challenge she ever had to face has been in her career. What's your biggest challenge been as a psychologist? Well, there are so many things I could list here, but challenges? Well, psychologists have lots of challenges to face all the time. We need to be able to communicate properly with the people we work with. It's not only about having the right knowledge, it's also about being able to convey that knowledge to our patients. Early on, I remember I do nothing but read and prepare. And then all of a sudden, I realized that truly one of the most important things we can and have to do is just listen to our patients. Well, thank you so much, Miguel. Ismael here is going to talk about this, in fact, in greater detail later. But right now, I'd like to ask him, you were a high-performance athlete yourself, and now you're a sports psychologist. Can you tell us a little bit about your story, if you will? How did you go from high-performance sports to psychology? Well, that's a bit of a long story, really, but I'd say that what's brought me here today is two things. One is a willingness to learn, and two, a willingness to, from my experience as a professional athlete and as a bit of an aficionado mountaineer, which is a very, very tough sport, being able to combine experience with knowledge. I cut my teeth playing sports. I still practice sport on a daily basis. Sport really is what my life is all about. It's my daily bread. But I think that if we want to be able to assist people properly as psychologists, we have to do so rigorously from our own personal experience. I loved what you just said about the human side of treating a patient. Now, I like to say that I was a professional athlete in the last century, in the 20th century, and it was very, very different back then. It is true that elite athletes suffer, and you have to be able to listen to them. They suffer a lot, and due to their status, due to the persona they have to put forward, because they have to constantly prove everyone else, that they're stronger than everyone else. That's a lot of pressure. It leads to, a lot of fear, a lot of insecurity, and it hurts. And it prevents athletes from growing as humans, as sports people, and it leads to injuries as well. So all of these considerations, if you will, have led me here. And eventually I decided to enroll in this psychology BA. Got 2 months to go, and then I'll get my title. I'm very happy to be contributing in a way or another. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I think Miguel put the stress on something that's really quite important. The wellness of sports people and athletes. Ismael has a lot to say about that. You'll get to see that later. Now, in your experience, Miguel,
la parte que has tenido muy vinculada a lo sanitario y la parte del deportista, si encontrases coincidencias,
are there any overlaps
no van a existir
between clinical practice in oncology and in high performance athlete treatment? Possibly not many, but are there any overlaps between the two? Something I often find myself wondering about when I try to connect the dots of my professional career.
¿Cómo lo pienso como psicólogo en ambas disciplinas? Pues una, ineludiblemente está enfocada más en lo que puede ser trastornos de la conducta.
One of the two is more related, of course, to behavioral disorders and the disease in and of itself, whereas the other is strongly related to physical wellness. So truly these are different, but if I look at it from the perspective of what a patient needs, both the oncology patient and the high-performance athlete, they need assistance as humans. I realized working with oncology patients that very, very often the patients couldn't quite understand what the physicians were saying to them. Why? Because physicians used difficult terminology, difficult words, because they were stressed out and they couldn't understand what they were being told. And we all know that due to a touring effect, when you're very stressed out, you can't quite make sense of what you're being told as you would in other circumstances. Something similar happens to elite athletes. We're there as psychologists to help athletes achieve their top possible performance, and as psychologists we have to provide them with the tools they need to improve as athletes. I've got a question for Carolina. What happens when a psychologist's takeaway or message jars with what the manager or coach is asking the athlete to do? Well, that's never happened to me. It's never happened to me, so I can't really say. I've always worked with a team, okay? And I have to say that I've been lucky because both my psychologist and my coach, my manager, they seem to agree on everything that was required of me. So I've never had that. Have you had that, Miguel? Yes, that's happened to me. Sometimes you work with coaches they don't quite know how to get through to their athletes. They need your help as a psychologist because they want to be able to better get through to their athletes. It's funny that, isn't it? Because we often think that it's only athletes who need us. Not necessarily. Coaches need us as well. That's absolutely true. Just this week, Ismail and I were talking about teamwork, or rather, working as part of a team. And providing assistance to an athlete as a team is something that has a lot of potential. As Carolina was saying, being part of a well-connected environment, so working alongside different specialists within the staff has great benefits. What else? What else? Got a bit of a script here. So next question. Ismail, you said that you were active as an athlete in the 20th century. You made it sound ancient, but what do you think the future of sports psychology is all about? Well, would you like me to tell you where I think sports psychology should be headed in the future? Well, not really. Do you see, let's say, do you see any obstacles, any barriers for sports psychology to further grow and develop in the future? Well, I think that sports psychology should not lose sight of, well, the important stuff: motivation, performance, injury treatment, rehab. But let me stress this, that possibly most important thing is the human side of things, the personal side of things, because that is something that all athletes need, and they don't know they need it, especially when they're young. And it is what they need if they want to be able to perform up to standard. When we're young, we only think about training, improving. We think about the technique. We think about how we can get stronger, jump higher, etc. And it never even occurs to us that our life, our personal relationships, the way we feel every day when we get out of bed is equally important. It doesn't even occur to us that really all of these aspects have a big impact on our performance. We now know that psychologically emotions have a big impact on muscular performance, muscle performance, for example, but they don't necessarily. So if the performance at the very top of everything else, but that performance is only a consequence of everything else. So I think in sports psychology, what we should focus on is helping athletes getting to know themselves better. Because it is true that psychologists can help them, can assist them most of the time, but not always, because sooner or later, athletes will have to travel. They'll be on their own. And when they are on their own, they need to have tools that they can use to overcome any difficulties that might arise. And so I think this is where sports psychology should be heading, without losing sight of anything it's already achieved, of course. Let me tie that in with something else. From the point of view of theory, really you were referring to Ryan's self-determination theory. You were talking about what it takes for our athletes to become independent. And that's very, very true and very, very important. They need to feel capable of handling their own. And to that end, a very important factor is the social environment they exist in. I was talking to a colleague the other day who is treating an 18-year-old athlete who's very, very good, almost at the top of his sport, and he's
no hay
constantly
otro recurso.
facing a lot of
Entonces,
pressure
siento que hay necesidad real.
all
Yo
the
no puedo
time.
aplicar tus herramientas, Miguel,
And he
y me
missed
siento con ello
two caps,
eficaz, pero me faltaba la tercera parte.
two calls from his team, once
Curiosamente,
because he
como
was
me
injured
decía,
and once
por
because he
redactar
didn't
que
make
estabas
the cut,
hablando,
and that takes a big
que estamos trabajando muchísimo, por
it,
ejemplo, con este deportista es
that has a big impact
descanso.
on
Y
an athlete's
descansas correctamente los
psychology.
protocolos para evitar el
We now know
estrés,
that for an
sueño
athlete to perform,
y
they need
alimentación,
to
porque se
rest,
alimentaba mal.
they need
Pues
to eat
exactamente lo que estás
properly,
diciendo es que me han saltado ahí
and
las
they need a
alarmas
strong
mentales, ¿no?
social foundation. And you just reminded me of it.
¿Y a dónde
Yeah.
te gustaría que fuera, Carolina?
What about you, Carolina?
Bueno, poco más puedo
Where do you think
añadir de lo que
sports
han dicho
psychology
ellos.
should be headed in the future?
Pero bueno,
Well,
creo que
I've
es
little
muy
to
importante,
add
como
to what they
decía Miguel, el tema de
said,
la
but
autonomía
as
del
Miguel
club.
was saying, it's
El
very
jugador
important that
al
we enable
final,
athletes to become
yo,
independent.
por ejemplo, yo tengo a mi psicólogo aquí cuando estoy compitiendo. Evidentemente, cuando compito fuera,
Whenever I
tenemos
compete
sesiones antes de las competiciones,
abroad,
pero al final tenemos que autogestionar nosotros.
I have to be
Cuando yo
able
estoy en
to
la pista
handle
tengo
my
que
emotions
hacer un poco
myself.
lo
I
que,
can meet
o
my
sea, hacer lo que
psychologist
yo estoy
shortly
sintiendo, pero
before I leave,
hacerlo, o
but
sea, lo
once I
que
leave, I have to handle it
y
myself.
tratar
And obviously,
de hacerlo en los
I
momentos que toca, darme cuenta
remind
cuando
myself
realmente
of what my
tengo que
psychologist
hacerlo,
told me.
cuando
I
estoy
do the things
estresada o
I'm
cuando
supposed
estoy
to
con
do when I'm
tensión y tengo que
supposed to
hacer
do
una
them. I
sesión
know
de
what I have to do when
relajación.
I'm stressed out.
Esas cosas las
I
tengo muy
know what I
presentes
have
como
to do to
deportista. Entonces, si yo,
relax.
por ejemplo, antes
This is
de un
something
partido
that
estoy
all
nerviosa,
athletes need to be
pues
able to
digo,
do.
venga,
And
voy a
if
hacer un poco
before
de
a
relajación
game,
o
I
voy a
get
visualizar un
nervous,
poco el
I know what
partido
to do.
para ir un
I do a
poco
little visualization, for example. I
tomando el
try and
contacto.
visualize
Luego a
the
lo mejor
game.
un calentamiento más fuerte para sacarme los nervios. Y
Then
bueno,
I
hay
warm up
técnicas
a
que te
little bit
da el
just to
psicólogo y
shake
que
the
al final tienes que
nerves.
aplicar tú.
So
Y
there
bueno,
are techniques, but obviously you
conmigo
need to be
misma y
aware of
también
them.
entender tu cuerpo y saber cuándo lo necesitas, en qué momento.
As an athlete,
Porque
you
claro,
need
tú
to
estás
be
en mitad del
taught
partido y es un punto importante y
to
tienes que,
understand
uy,
your
estoy
body.
nervioso, pues ahora tengo que tal.
So if you're nervous, you need to know what you have to do to,
A mí hay una
shake
palabra
it off
que
ahead of an
nombra
important game.
Ismael siempre que hablamos, que son
The
las
magic
relaciones, donde
word
yo
here
ahí
is,
pongo
and this is something
mayor foco de
Ismail
trabajo.
said earlier,
Entonces, en el caso
personal
con Carolina y con
relationships.
Ismael, habéis
In
hecho
the case of both
deporte
Carolina and
individual,
Ismael,
luego has hecho
you've played
deporte en equipo,
at a very,
en
very
equipo desde el
high
cual son
level
dos
in
personas,
tennis,
y insisto en esto por algo.
first
Habéis
Carolina, and then
Ismael
you played a
deporte
team
individual,
sport,
digamos que
paddle,
todo lo
which
que es
is a
montaña,
two-person
y
game.
equipo,
And
pues
then
tipo
Ismael,
baloncesto, donde has pasado
you know, you've played
por eso
basketball,
que lo
a team game,
he
and
escuchado y quiero
you got into
hacer vuestros
mountaineering,
casos.
which is a
Que hay una gran
solo effort,
diferencia
really. So
entre
you've both had
independiente a dos
experience
y
in
deporte a
both.
más de dos.
Is there a
Desde
difference in
el punto de
solo
vista de tener
sports
unas
or
buenas
two-people
relaciones.
sports and team sports
¿Qué opinas,
when it
Carolina?
comes to personal
Levanta las
relationships with
cejas. Lo digo para los streaming
your
porque
partner
no
or
puedo
the
ver
rest
a
of the
alguien.
team?
Hombre, yo puedo comentarte en el
Well,
pádel, que es un deporte de pareja,
I can obviously talk about paddle.
es muy
Paddle is a
complicado.
two-person
Es muy
game, and it's a
complicado.
very
Es muy
difficult one at
complicado
that. A very
porque
difficult sport
aparte de entrenar mucho,
because
estás viajando todo el
aside from
día,
having to
compartes habitación
train
con la
lots,
persona
you have to travel
y luego
a lot.
estás
You
en
have to
momentos de
share a
mucho estrés
room with your teammate,
durante la
and then
competición.
obviously as you're
Entonces,
playing
bueno,
during the competition,
hay veces que tienes
you're
jugadoras
firing on all cylinders all the
que no
time.
pueden
You're
tirar
always
espadas
extremely
y tienes que
stressed
intentar
out.
que no te afecte. O jugadoras que son
And
muy
sometimes,
negativas y tienes que tratar,
you know,
me ha
perhaps you
pasado
don't quite get
con
along with your
jugadoras que
teammate
son
and you
muy
have to deal with
negativas,
that.
hasta falla una bola y ya
And
están
sometimes,
con un discurso negativo. Y entonces yo
sometimes
trato
your
de animarla, venga,
teammates
no
are
pasa
perhaps a
nada,
bit
trata de tener un discurso
negative,
más positivo,
a
vamos
bit
a
doom and
seguir y pues
gloom,
al final termina
and you
echada
have
en
to sort
barrera.
of bring them up
Y al
and
final nos
encourage
afecta a las dos. Entonces,
them.
por un lado
Otherwise, they'll
ayudarla y
bring
por
you
otro lado yo
down.
mantenerme en mi nivel.
So on
Mi
the one
función
hand, you
psicóloga es
help
que
them,
somos 4
and
jugadoras, cada una tiene que hacer su 25%. Tú tienes que
but
hacer
by
bien
doing
tu
that, you're really
25%.
helping yourself.
Trata de ayudar a tu compañera, pero
My
no
psychologist
dejes de lado
always
tu
says to me,
25%.
look, this is a team effort.
Entonces, no sé,
What
hay
you
un montón
can contribute as an individual is about
algo que te diga, a ver
25%
cómo
of
te
the outcome. The
sienta.
other
Tienes que tener
25%
cuidado. Por ejemplo, el otro
is
día
down
yo
to
con
your
mi compañera
teammate,
decía,
but
venga,
you can
vamos
help
así,
her
porque siempre
do that.
perdemos los 2 primeros
So
puntos
that's
de
my
nuestro saque,
philosophy,
que es
more or
importante.
less.
Entonces decía, venga, vamos a tratar
If
de
we're
hacer el primer
2
punto,
points
tal,
behind,
súper positivo y tal, y ya
you
cuando
know, that's
pasáis
fine for me,
un
but
set y medio, le
sometimes it
digo,
isn't
a
to
ver,
your partner, if you know what I
vamos a
mean.
hacer
And
el primer punto porque
um,
estamos perdiendo todo
you
lo...
have
Yo
to
sé que era un
really
discurso
make an
negativo, pero
effort
para ver
to
si
get ahead early
espabilaba.
on during a
Porque
game.
yo lo intento de
Otherwise,
muchas
my
maneras y
team,
digo, tengo que
my,
hacerlo
my
así y no
teammate, my
pasa.
partner
Entonces
gets
me dijo, no me
depressed.
digas discurso negativo. Y digo, a ver, lo he intentado de muchas maneras. manera y después a veces
So
y hay infinidad de
that's-
situaciones que se pueden dar,
that's
imagínate, desde
pretty much how it
una
worked for
cara,
me,
un comentario que
but that's
haga,
only one
algo que le pueda molestar. Tienes que
situation
saber
that
conocer
we
los
have
gustos
to
también
face
para
as
saber
athletes. There's so
cómo
much
llevarlo.
more.
Hay gente que solo quiere que la cosa
Some
positiva, hay otro
people
que le gusta
will
que
stand up to you,
metas
some other people you
caña,
won't get
y
along with.
cada deportista es un mundo. Entonces,
Some people
yo he tenido
need
muchos
grit,
compañeros a lo largo de
others
mi
need
carrera y trato
encouragement.
de identificar
It's
un
very,
poco
very
qué es lo
different,
que
and it's a
le viene bien a
two-person
cada una.
effort.
Entonces, bueno, a
So you
veces
need to
hasta
be
lo
able
hablo.
to
¿Qué te
figure
viene
out
bien a ti para rendir mejor?
what
¿O
each
qué
of your
prefieres? ¿Cómo quieres que lo
partners
hagamos tal? Porque luego es que estás
needs.
en una situación de mucho estrés.
Because again,
Y tienes que
paddle
tratar
games are
primero de
very
meter la
stressful.
bola, de jugar bien, de ver la táctica, y
And
luego de tratar que tu
you
compañero
have
también
to, try and score,
con buena
hit
energía.
the ball properly,
Totalmente.
think about
Pero es esto
tactics,
que
think
al
about your
final todo el mundo
teammates. It's
equipo de baloncesto,
difficult.
igual alguno hay positivo,
I'm
¿no?
assuming
Aunque hay alguno negativo, hay otros 3 o 4 que están ahí como...
that the situation is perhaps similar in basketball, isn't it? Well, in basketball, as a team effort, as a team sport, things are very difficult. It's a complex balance because you've got lots of different people, lots of different personalities, each with their own personal objectives and a common goal, certainly. But each player has their own personal goals, and this is actually where coaches come in, because that's what they have to manage mostly, more than everything else. Back in my day, I don't know today, but back in my day, what we needed really as team players was to develop our own social skills as individuals. You need to be good at self-regulating as an individual and as a member of a team. Depending on the emotional state of the team, you, as an individual, may be required to do different things. Training helps. Training together helps, but even then, if there is no feeling, if there is no chemistry between the players, if there is no commitment, no respect, no confidence, no matter how hard you work in training, then you won't perform.
Yep, so I think that there's room for improvement there. There's a great working field there. Something that I see as very complex is to work with the coaches, because the coaches are the ones that like to have everything under control. In this case, we should negotiate very well that they shouldn't see that as an intrusion, but as a support, as a support a process in order to help them manage things as well, as good as possible. My experience is that basketball, football coaches, and so on and so forth are understanding all this, and although there's still work to be done to work all together, I mean, to sit down in the same room, coaches, players, technical staff, you name it, but at least the coaches are already playing. There are coaches that are accompanying the players in a very personalized way to see how they have to manage all the situation, and I think that this is a great step forward. Now we have to go the extra mile. It's like, let's put together players and the ones that accompany them, and this would be the point that would have the biggest impact, I would say. Yeah, I don't think that it would be very necessary. Everything that has to do with psychoeducation, the point that athletes have to understand that having a psychologist is not because you are, well, something bad's happening to you or because you're a weirdo. No, it doesn't have to do with that. It is an extraordinary support. It can be a great support for your career. And sport is not only about training. You also have to have rest, you have a life, and there are many other aspects of your life that are relevant, that have a great impact when performing. Well, we've seen the stages in terms of, well, both athlete and high performance, and thus a part that is being increasingly important, that and it is the time when you retire.
el momento, cómo acompañar al deportista en ese momento.
So how to accompany the athlete in that moment? We've seen how great athletes on a global scale are retiring in the world of tennis. We have said goodbye to great players in the last months, and this accompaniment is necessary, especially when you see that they don't have the same presence, so to speak. And many things have yet to be done. I was talking to a high-performance athlete that had just retired. And he was saying, well, the point is that how are you going to start working on your retirement when you are playing at the elite? You're here, and it's like, how can I start thinking of my retirement? I'm winning everything. What are you talking about? What do you think about this, Karina?
Bueno, yo estoy en ese momento, ya no estoy ganando todo, pero
Well, I'm
estoy en un
right now
momento
at
de
that
retirada.
moment.
Estoy disfrutando mi
I'm
último
about to
año.
retire. I'm enjoying my last season.
La verdad que a mí me ha
I'm
costado
not winning
mucho
everything,
dar
by
el
the way.
paso,
But the truth is that it has been
pero bueno,
difficult for
en el
me
momento
to take the step.
que lo di lo tenía muy claro.
But when I took that
Que fue el
step,
año pasado que dije,
everything was
el
very
año que
clear.
viene,
It
el
was
último
last
año.
year. I said, well, next season is going to be my last season.
Cogí, bueno,
And
ya
I
tenía
think
psicólogo,
that,
pero
well, I already
le
had
dije, quiero
a
trabajar en esto, o
psychologist,
sea,
but
quiero
I
trabajar en
told him,
competir
hey,
este
I
año,
want to
pero quiero
work on
empezar
this. I
ya
want to compete
a
this year,
hablar
but
de que me voy a
I want
retirar,
to
de
start
verdad. O sea,
speaking
no,
about the
llevo
fact that I'm
diciendo
going
eso,
to
me retiro
retire.
mucho tiempo.
I've been saying this
Entonces, bueno,
for many years, so
es difícil porque al final
it is difficult
a mí, por ejemplo, me apasiona competir. O
because
sea,
in
yo
the end,
no
well, I
veo
love to
mi
compete.
vida sin estar compitiendo.
I
Porque es
can't
que
see my life
desde
without
los 7 años
competing.
que juego al tenis
Since I
hasta
was
49
7
que cumplí ayer.
until 49 years old, it was my
Y
birthday
es que
yesterday.
esa adrenalina que te genera la
That
la
adrenaline, that
competición,
competition
digo yo,
creates.
¿dónde la voy a conseguir? La
It's like,
conseguiré
where
seguro.
am I going to get it? Of course I
Pero,
will.
a ver, es duro.
But,
Lo único
well,
que yo me he
it's
dado
tough,
cuenta
but
que cuando tienes...
the only thing I've realized
yo
is
llevo
that,
mucho tiempo planificando, pues,
well, I've been
lo que va a
planning
ser después de la retirada, que estoy...
my
estoy haciendo un máster
retirement.
de coaching y psicología deportiva aquí.
I'm having, well,
También. Y
I'm
luego aparte
at a
estoy
master's degree
trabajando
with him,
para una academia
by the way,
con
and
mi
I'm working
nombre,
for an
clubes,
academy with my name,
para
with
trabajar una marca, me han ofrecido muchísimas
clubs.
cosas.
I'm working for a
Pero ya es
brand.
como
Many
que
things
tengo
have
muy
been offered to
claro,
me, but
tengo
it's very
ya
clear
los proyectos
for
muy
me
claros,
that
están muy avanzados, entonces
I want to
tengo
retire.
esa
The projects
motivación
are
que la veo
really
ahí,
have
digo,
progressed a
estoy
lot,
supermotivada
and
para el
I
año
see
que
that
viene. Y
motivation, and
creo
I
que eso
say,
es bueno
wow,
para el
I'm
deportista que
extra
vea que,
motivated
o
for
sea,
next
prepararse
season, for next year, and
y
that's
que
good for
tenga
the
algo
athlete in order to
cuando lo
prepare
deje.
to retire
Porque yo creo que
and to have
hay
something
deportistas que por ahí
when you
dicen,
quit.
bueno, ¿y ahora qué hago? Yo no sé
Because
hacer
there are
nada más que
athletes that say,
competir,
well,
no sé
what
hacer
can I
nada, y de
do?
repente
I
se
can't do
retiran y
anything
no
but
tienen nada.
compete.
Y
So
están
they retire
aquí,
and
que
they have
todo el mundo
nothing.
le llama, los focos
So in this
en
case,
lo alto,
everybody
y de
calls
repente no hay
them,
nadie, porque al final
and suddenly they are no
terminas de
one.
competir y
Because you
empiezas en,
you
digamos, en la
quit, you
vida
stop
real.
competing, and you start with your real
Entonces
life.
yo creo que es muy importante, que yo creo que lo he
So I
ido
think
trabajando
that it is
bastante
very
bien
important, and I
desde
think
hace
I've been
tiempo,
working on that quite
el
a lot
planificarte y de
for
tener
quite a
bien
long time.
planificado lo que
That
vas a hacer
planning
después.
is important, and to plan what you're going to do
Y
next.
por eso yo ahora estoy tranquila. Estoy
And that's
triste
why
porque me da mucha pena,
I'm
pero estoy muy
quite
tranquila
relaxed. I'm sad,
porque sé
but
que
I'm
estoy
quite
muy motivada
relaxed
para lo
because
que
I
viene.
know that I'm really
Así que bueno,
motivated for
creo que
what
lo has
comes
colocado
next.
bien. Este deportista con el que yo trabajaba estos días
But you
me
said that
decía
very well. The
que
athlete that I was
era lo que
working with
trabajamos,
during
lo
these
que
days
trabajamos, me decía, me he
said,
quedado sin
in fact,
identidad.
this is what we were working on,
Es que yo
said,
era
well,
lo
I
mismo.
have no
Yo
identity.
era
Now I
ese
don't
al que todo
exist
el mundo me
anymore.
llamaba, al que yo
I was the one
iba
that
andando
everybody
por
called.
sitios
I was the
y,
one that I was
vamos,
walking on
se
the
me
street,
abría el espacio
and
y
people
ahora de
stopped
repente es
me,
que no soy
and
nadie.
and
Tengo que crear una
suddenly I'm
identidad
no
nueva,
one.
¿no?
So
Claro,
I have
eso,
to
por
create a new
ejemplo,
identity.
eso a mí me ha pasado
Yeah, for
cuando yo
example,
estuve
this has
número
happened to me
9
when
años.
I was
Era como te llamaba
number
todo el
one for
mundo, los
9 years.
patrocinadores,
Everybody
todo
called you,
el mundo, era
sponsors,
como
everybody
estabas ahí
sent you a
la cresta de la
message. It
ola.
was
Cuando
you
empiezas
were
a
at the
perder,
top of the top.
la gente se olvida de ti.
When you start
Ya
losing,
no te hacen
people
entrevistas,
forget about you.
no
They do
juegas
not
sin
interview
central,
you.
no te llaman para nada.
You don't play
Y eso
anymore.
sí que
They
yo
don't
tengo
call
que
you for
gestionar
anything,
porque eso
and
no
that's
se lleva
difficult to
bien.
manage
Es como que
because
antes,
that's
cuando estás arriba, es cuando
that's
todo el
not
mundo quiere
nice.
estar contigo.
When
Y
you're at the
cuando
top,
no,
everybody wants
quedan
to be with you, and
realmente
when
la
you're
gente,
not,
tu familia, tus amigos,
the ones that are there
pero
are
la
your
gente se
family, your
olvida.
friends,
Es duro.
and that's it. Period. But
Eso
people
a mí
forget
me ha
about you.
costado,
That's tough.
encajarlo, pero bueno,
It has been difficult for me
estoy muy
to
tranquila.
Pero
to
es
manage
duro
that, but
aun
I'm
cuando
quite
tú tienes
relaxed.
un proyecto profesional
But
para
it's
el
tough
momento de
even
que
when you have a
digas,
professional
hasta aquí
project
estoy en la
for the
competición.
time when you
Pero
say
hay
enough.
muchos deportistas que no se han
But there
encargado
are
de
many
eso, no
athletes
se
that
han
haven't
preparado
done
para ese
that.
punto de
They
salida,
haven't
con
prepared
lo
for
cual te
that
quedas
farewell,
Vacío, te
so to
quedas
speak. So
sí.
you're empty.
sin
Yep.
nada, vacío, y al final eso es muy duro.
Yeah, that's it. That's quite tough.
Pues es que estaba,
There's some
vamos,
vertigo about
no,
it.
si no hacemos el acto de escuchar,
So what do you think, Miguel?
a responder, ¿no? Y estaba
So if we
tratando
do
de
not
meter
listen
todo
to
en un
athletes, how can we give an answer? I was trying to put everything into
primero, lo
a
importante de
draft, into a
realizar una carrera
scheme.
dual.
And first of all, how important it is to have a dual career. That's very important. Or even doctoral theses that tell you, well, the athletes that are starting at the same time will have a will have better skills to face that situation. But there have been some athletes that are at a world championship that the day after they have an exam, and when the competition is over, they have to go and start it because they know that they have to pass an exam. So what are they doing? They're developing more skills in order to face stressful situations and highly demanding, and they have very clear goals. Once you compete, you can release your emotions, you can correct your mistakes, and you can change your mind. And they're developing more skills in order to face the difficulties and to face frustration. So there's a lower rate of abandonment. Careers are longer. And you've started at the same time. Maybe your career is longer because of all these skills of managing things, and they help you be prepared for when you decide to retire. Indirectly, you're working on every situation that will be part of the athlete's identity since the beginning until the end. Yeah, I totally agree with what has been said. I would call that balance. This gives you balance. In my case, my retirement was not a planning example. I didn't walk the talk. You feel that emptiness, you feel scared. What am I going to do? Many things go through your mind. That loss of identity. And it's a tough and difficult time. It's a duel. I would say that although you have already planned, it's a duel in any way. But in this case, it would be some kind of grieving, we would say. But anyway, you have more stability if you plan it. But I would say that it's one of the toughest times in an athlete's career. And I totally agree with that. It's necessary to plan, to have that duality. And although you are at the top, so the higher you are, the more necessary it is, because this is what will make you land and what will make you be in contact with reality. That is going to be what you are going to have someday, sooner or later. Because when that moment comes, it doesn't matter how well organized it is. I understand that there have been many, during the way, there have been many waivers, so to speak. There have been athletes that have left their home. They've been flying to one place to another. They left their family very soon because that required to live in a different country, into a residency. So maybe it will depend on how you've lived that balance. And previous work can be done, and that is very important. So with the athletes, this week we were talking to Alberto Angulo. We have athletes in the Real Madrid Academy that are 11 or 12 years old that have left their homes. It's quite possible, and it's quite possible with a very powerful professional project that it will take them many, many years to go back. So it's like, so what happened when you were 12, 13, 17 years old? There are people that are near home and others that are very far away from home. I can share my experience because I came to Madrid when I was 13. I was not born here, and you leave many things. The point is that you realize about that later. But in any case, we were speaking about retirement, but if we speak about these ages, you need accompaniment, and that's true, and you need people very close to you because you are so much absorbed by the excitement of your dreams that you can't think of the consequences in what you're leaving behind and in what it would mean at emotional and vital level that during such a time like adolescence, you are far away from your family or your friends, that you are so focused on your dream and obsessed in your dream. You can make it, but the price can be very high. Yeah, what a company is everything, right? In education, a great job can be done with the academy, with the players, right? Yeah, I was thinking about that. We were talking about that at the beginning. We were talking about how important it is to have that sports identity. The other day, I was having lunch with an athlete, and we were preparing the evening session, and this athlete was telling me, hey, after giving up on many things when I was young, after accomplishing many successes, well, she established in Madrid, she is still studying. We've split the courses so that she can finish high school, and now she's at the university with split courses so that she has time for her professional career. And now she's injured and said, I don't know who I am if this person doesn't call me. So who am I out of my sport? It was like such a basic thing. It was like, I'm going to the university, I'm going to college. But in this case, I'm connected to this kind of sport, so you have to be dressed up in a specific way. But if you want to wear jeans or a T-shirt, I don't feel comfortable because they don't relate me with the person that I am as a person. So you have to strengthen your identity as a person in order to know who you are as an athlete. And this happens because of your physical aspect, so to speak. It's like, do I feel comfortable with my outfit? So do I have the right to wear makeup or to go to the theater to eat an ice cream? It seems that it's forbidden. So it's like those rules of 80-20. If you want to take care of your food, you should have a 20% of saying, well, this day you have the right to eat a pizza, a muffin, or to have an ice cream with your friends. Because this will create more responsibility to say, well, I'll keep on training. But either we lower the level or we will never know who we are. So the level of demand of the ones that surround the athlete will be very important. So in El Mundo we had Tania Lamarca, and she said the level of demand around gymnastics is amazing. They don't know what an ice cream is, so that would be sci-fi. But that depends on sport too. We have to finish because we'll move to the next to the second part. Would you say that depending on the sport, there's a great difference in the way of accompanying the athlete? Maybe in football or basketball. I mean, the psychologists, sports psychologists, should have some kind of duality depending on the kind of sport. I'm not speaking a preference or a wish. Well, depending on it is a collective or an individual sport, of course the way is different. I think that an athlete at individual level doesn't have the same point of view of sport or of life than a team athlete. I'm not saying that it is mandatory, but I think that it's helpful. To me, if I'm hired by a paddle player, it would be more difficult for me in some situations. I'm not speaking about human level, but maybe in some situations it would be more difficult to me to understand or to connect with her or him at 100%. And I think that the paddle player wouldn't listen to me in the same way. However, a basketball player, well, I know what he has in every single moment in his head. Since he's going since he's going to the training session, since he is in his car, I know what he's feeling. I've played basketball for many years, and I know the way they have to listen, and that's very important. And that would set the confidence. And what about you? Could that condition Could it condition you when accompanying him? In some way, it could, because I think that it would feel safer accompanying a basketball player, or I should learn a lot about paddle or any other sport. But I think that it would never be the same. Yeah, it will have to do with you and your confidence. Yeah, because it would be like a mirror. So I know what he's feeling, what he is. When someone from the audience says something, when a supporter says something, any situation that could make him feel frustrated. So I would have more tools and passion because you're showing it. Well, this is me. This is me, Susana. What do you think, Miguel? From sports psychology. Well, the recommendation that I always give to my students and that I apply to myself when an athlete is playing a sport that I didn't know, for example, I didn't have the chance to work with it. First thing that I do is to study it. I study the sport, I talk to coaches, athletes, I analyze players, things that are specifically linked to that sport, and observation tasks. We have to watch games, we have to see how they behave, we have to see how what people they're working with, the audience. You need to know the jargon. How do they speak? Because in order to communicate, you have to speak the same way. And when a professional comes along, and a health professional comes along and speaks with the same jargon as that athlete, you say, hey, you really know what this is about. So you have to know the material. If that sport has to do with a very technical material, they'll speak about the differences between the vibration of carbon compared to aluminium. So if you speak the same jargon and you understand what the athlete needs, technical communication systems, environment, you name it, so he will really resonate with you. Thank you very much. Well, same thing here. It is as if I started to talk to a basketball player. I don't understand a lot about basketball, but I wouldn't know how to connect with the athlete. For example, if I was with a paddle player, that would be very easy for me. I feel very comfortable. Same happens with you, but the other way around. You have to know what you're talking about and everything that it entails. So we have to move on to the next part. Do you have questions? I would like to ask to the audience, is there any questions? We apologize, but we are not receiving the sound because I'm afraid that they're not using a mic. I'm sorry for that.
Da igual, te escuchamos perfectamente. ¿Qué experiencia tenemos en ese ámbito?
Okay, they heard him, but we didn't. We apologize. Yeah, now we can hear you. So, what experience do you have in that field, and how do you face it, especially in team sports, and what's the difference from an individual sport? What's the difference between an individual and a collective sport? Well, many factors have play the role. If we have a look at it from the social point of view, it's like we see how we've worked with different groups in the sports psychology. The responsibility will be diluted. But when we set the roles in a team, we'll be able to know who's going to tell, who's going to say why, and who's going to be the responsible of that. We have that emotional. That is that emotional bond. I can connect with you from an emotional point of view. Maybe you get upset, the other one gets more upset, and everybody's upset. Or you have to look the other way around. For example, they start. Well, if they were alone, for example, would they do the same thing they do? If you set a leadership system and a good cohesion, a group cohesion, and good motivational environment, for sure you'll be able to face those situations where you see that they could elude the responsibilities, and you could set the right goals per line, per position, per changing room role, per position on the pitch. You'll be able to identify that before it happens. So, for example, the priority approach would be the one that you've mentioned, rather than focusing on how to make the person not to elude that responsibility, because in team sports sometimes it's unavoidable, that sometimes it happens. I have some experience in team sports, and sometimes you say, okay, so somebody else will do it. For example, you don't defend when you have to go to the back line. So you would focus on establishing clearer roles in the team, right? And they're the ones that have to regulate this kind of things, right? So that theory of self-determination is important. It will depend on the status you have of the team, but if you feel accountable for your actions for the common good, the most common thing is that you don't delude in your responsibilities. You're doing everything for the group to work. If you're a good observer, that's one of the basic aspects of the good psychologist, you need to know if these goals are being fulfilled. You can work on dynamics too, to see this kind of responsibility avoidance. I propose different tasks to them. So this task can't be solved, but what am I seeing? The way you behave. And I see who are going to lead the group, who have more communication issues. I want to see that from the inside, and that will give you many hints in order to prepare the working groups when highly demanding situations happen and that are very stressful. These things could happen. This would be the practical part that I would recommend to you. Thank you very much. And when you were talking about retirement, there has been something that I thought about. For example, in your case, you were speaking about your personal case. You're an athlete that has been at a very high level until almost the end.
Tu planteamiento, pero también me interesa a mí el planteamiento desde el punto de vista de un deportista, que aunque el deporte sí lo ha sido todo para él en la vida, quizá no haya llegado a un nivel tan alto de competición. Por ejemplo, voy a poner un ejemplo de deportistas de un suplente de un equipo de fútbol de segunda división.
Top position, for
el deporte
example,
es la parte
a player that is not in the lineup
porque
at the second division.
Igual, pero no ha llegado a tener estos
In this
beneficios
case, this athlete wouldn't have had
que están
all
asociados a
these
llegar tan
benefits
alto en el
that would
mundo del
be
deporte.
linked to reaching that top level. And what's the
Un
question?
poco también era para usted, que tiene más experiencia en el ámbito psicológico, el cómo se prepara ese momento de la retirada
So how do you prepare that
en
moment
deportistas de estas características?
in such this kind of athletes?
Pero bueno, independientemente de
So no matter, let's see, there's a mistake in the concept. A player that is at the bench is a top athlete. What has to be established are the goals. What are the goals since the beginning, since this player starts to play, and what are the goals that he has, and to know his position in the group. Vast majority of athletes won't just focus on the success that it can entail for them to be in the lineup. So you have to work on that. You'll find different blockings and different difficulties. But an athlete that retires, being the one that was sitting at the bench, is an amazing athlete, and you can be sure that he's very happy with the situation. Of course, he could do things better, but he needs to have very realistic goals throughout his career to see where he can go, and not to create fake expectations. You have to work with what you have. And when you're able to accompany this kind of athletes, I say this again, they are at the top level. You'll see this capacity. Maybe my question was not very clear. I was speaking, for example, about
que quizá
this loss of
pues sí que
identity
el impacto
that
es mayor.
maybe has a
Porque
higher
al final,
impact.
por ejemplo, en vuestros casos, que sí que habéis
Because in
tenido
your cases,
bastante éxito en el mundo del deporte,
you've been
pues es
quite
como
successful in the
comentabais,
world of
ahora
sport.
tenéis
It is
muchas
like you were
ofertas de
saying, now you
proyectos
have many
nuevos, tenéis muchas
offers with new
oportunidades que os llegan
projects,
solas.
many opportunities that
Un
just
poco cómo es la
arrive on
visión
their own.
para un deportista estas características, obviamente sin menospreciarlo, porque yo soy el primero que entiendo.
So,
Yo también he
with this
competido
kind
a
of
máximo nivel y
athletes,
entiendo que, aunque no seas
what
titular
would be
o
their
no
point of
juegues
view? I
casi
understand that
nunca,
although you are not
igualmente eres un
playing
deportista de alto rendimiento
in a very
y
frequent way, maybe, well,
gozas de
of course you
una
are a top
situación muy buena,
performer.
pero me
So
refería más en
you
ese
have a very
ámbito.
good situation, but
En cualquier
this is
caso,
what I
ahí
meant,
estaríamos
basically.
metiendo también algo que
This is a
no nos da tiempo
clarification.
y que tiene
So,
que ver
yeah,
con
we're
el
sorry for that
impacto
we
social.
have no time.
Es
That has to
decir,
do with social
cómo te
impact.
impacta a ti el haber
So,
sido el
what's the
primero,
social
el haber
impact
estado campeón de
that,
Europa al baloncesto,
well,
o el
for
ser
example, you've won
durante
the European
9 años
Championship in
número uno?
basketball,
Pero
or
ahí ya está.
how does it
Al final
affect
el
you
deportista de alto
having been
rendimiento, aunque haya llegado
number one
tercera,
for 9 years in a
sin
row?
poner ningún... para él es una retirada igual de
So anyway,
sufrimiento, de
for the
dolor que para el
athlete, that
deportista
would
que
be
está
a retirement in any
en primera,
case,
o sea, en primer equipo.
although you are in
Hay
the
más,
lineup or
hay más
not.
impacto en cómo la sociedad o en
Maybe
las
there's a
oportunidades
higher
que le
impact
van a surgir.
at social level
No sé si
because
hay
of the
alguna
opportunities that
pregunta
could
más.
emerge. I don't know if
Sí.
there's any further questions. Yes?
Sí.
Yes? I have a question for Ismael. Yes? You said that a player that plays individual sports has a different point of view compared to a team player. Can you explain us how we should focus on each of on these players? Well, that was generally speaking, and we should never talk in general terms.
La rutina diaria de un deportista que, por ejemplo, vamos a poner un nadador, por ejemplo, que todos los días su trabajo,
the daily routine of an athlete, let's say a swimmer, for example, entails day after day swimming alone in a lane by himself or herself. That, of course, forges a different personality to a team player. A team player needs to forge their personality around what the team needs. So little by little, and this has to do with neuroscience really, it sort of shapes your brain into something different depending on the tasks that you have to accomplish. Because again, this is not something that you just do once a given day. You do it over weeks and months and years. So this is what it's all about, really. In team sports, you can sort of conceal yourself, but in an individual sport, you can't. And so the way you approach training or competition on a daily basis changes as a result. It does, it's inevitable, because being by yourself has nothing to do with being surrounded by people, by a group. And that means that you, psychologically speaking, need to be assisted in a different way. An athlete who plays as part of a team has somebody to vent to when things aren't going their way. But if you're an individual, a solo sports person, then again, you're on your own all the time, and you approach your daily life in a different way. And because of that, you need a different therapeutical approach. And then, of course, aside from that, there's our distinct personalities. We each have a different personality, obviously, and as psychologists, we have to get to know our patients over time so that we can assist them as best we can. Okay, let's wrap up this first session of the day. I don't know if perhaps you, Carolina, would like to sign off by launching
solo quería contar una cosa
your very own
rápida.
message. Well, it's been a pleasure for me to
Yo, por ejemplo, tuve 2 lesiones de rodilla.
very,
Me
very
rompí
quickly, I
el
just want
ligamento
to tell you a
cruzado en
story.
2004 y en 2006
injured my knee twice in
Fueron los 2
2004 and
años de mundial, que era cada 2 años. En el 2004 me lo perdí.
ligaments. And
Cuando ya me recupero, me
this in
lo rompo en el
2004
2006.
meant
Y bueno,
that
fui al
I had to
médico,
miss
me
the
dijo
World
que o
Cup.
me operaba
Then I tore it again in
o tenía posibilidades
2006.
de
So I
llegar,
went to the
pero si me
doctor.
operaba un
He
70%
said to me, yes,
de
we can do
rendimiento
the
y si
surgery
no,
now, and
pues
maybe
me
you'll
podía
make it to the
romper
World
del
Cup, but
todo o no
if you
romperlo.
do,
Entonces, bueno,
it'll
me
be to
operé.
full
Y ahí fue
capacity,
justo
and
cuando
if it doesn't go well,
me
then
dieron la posibilidad de trabajar con un psicólogo y trabajé mucho con el tema de la visualización. Fue un trabajo diario. La verdad que fue... Yo estuve en una rodilla que fue sin psicólogo ni nada y la otra bien trabajada con visualizaciones y tal. O sea que puedo comparar cómo fue la vuelta a la competición entre una rodilla y la otra y la verdad que fue
broke my
mágico.
knee,
O sea, fue
so I can
increíble.
compare, and the difference
De
is
hecho, en el
incredible.
2006
Working with
me
a
operé en febrero
psychologist
y
was
en octubre gané el
absolutely
campeonato del
magical.
mundo.
In
Después de haberme
2006,
roto las
I
dos
got my
rodillas
surgery in February.
fue
Then in
increíble. Lo
October,
cuento rápido
I
porque se está cerrando el tema,
competed in
pero
the World Cup.
que el trabajo
I
de
just wanted to
visualización
get through this very
funciona, a mí me
quickly, but
funcionó y es muy, muy, muy
what's
poderoso
great
y
help.
bueno, que si podéis trabajarlo,
Visualization is a
hacerlo.
great tool. It's very, very powerful. So
Muchas
if you can
gracias,
use it, I
Carolina.
strongly recommend you
Placer
do
tenerte
because
aquí.
it does work.
Miguel, ¿algo que
Well, thank you very
comentar
much, Carolina, and
para
thank you for
cerrar
being here.
este ratito?
Miguel,
Nada más que
anything you'd like to
daros las
say to sign off?
gracias a vosotros por escucharnos y a vosotros por...
Well, thank you. Thank you for listening us and for listening to us, and thank you for taking part in such an
Muy bien, pues
interesting
ahora
roundtable.
nosotros nos vamos
Okay.
a mover, Carolina, Miguel
Well,
y yo,
now,
nos vamos a bajar
Carolina,
y van a
Miguel,
subir otras 3
and
personas
I
que os
will
van
be
a
leaving the
acompañar
stage, and
en las
another
2
3
siguientes
people will
actividades.
be
Vamos a
coming on.
dar 2 minutitos para hacer el cambio.
We'll have a short break,
No hace
just a
falta
couple of
que os
minutes,
mováis, si
to
queréis os
do the
podéis mover.
handover.
A los
You
de
don't
streaming podéis
you don't
levantaros
need to leave if you don't
volver a
want to, but if
sentaros,
you want to
dejar solo un
stretch your legs, you
momentito,
can do it.
pero es
Same
pues
goes for our streamers,
para
but this
despejar
won't
esta
take a
parte.
minute.
Se quedan
We
Luis,
just have to clear the
Ismael,
table, have the new people come in.
Jorge, y ahora
Luis,
van a
Ismael,
pasar
and Jorge will be
Pau,
staying
Joel
on,
y Hanna,
and
y ahora
Paulo
os
Manuel
toca
and Johanna will be
a estas
joining us for
3
the second
grandes
panel
profesionales que nos van
of the day.
a ayudar
Another
también en
3
este ratito.
incredible
Muchas
professionals
gracias
who
por la
will be
atención, por haber
guiding
estado
us
todos tan
throughout
atentos
the second
y
activity of the day. So
vamos
thank you all
a
very much for
movernos, ¿vale?
paying attention to this, and we'll be back with you shortly.
Working.
Entonces ya tenemos que quedar. A ver, Miguel, ¿cómo era tu santo? Oye, me ha encantado escucharte. Venga. Voy para allá.
Parece que nosotros vamos a estar ahora. Me comentaron, aquí no, aquí cuenta Ismael, ¿verdad?
Me ha dicho al lado de Miguel, digo de Jorge.
Ah, después vaya. No sabía que ya tenías inscripción.
Sí, me había dicho Luis eso.
Vale. O que nos acerquemos más cerca. Vale.
Porque no solo es que se escuchen bien aquí, sino que se escuchen el streaming,
Los de
y se
streaming.
escuchen traductor.
Vale,
Entonces,
vale.
es importante que se oiga.
Vale, gracias.
Una señal o algo si ves que no...
Vale.
¿Sí? Estáis allí atrás.
Estamos atrás.
Aquí está la chaqueta.
Intentad acercaros bastante al micro, ¿vale?
Vale.
Y está el streaming y el traductor.
Vale.
Sí, no,
Nosotros
yo
bajaremos
también
con
creo que
esos
estamos
dos
un poco
micros.
lejos. Chicos, venid un poco por aquí.
Vale, ahora mismo no se oye. Bajaré por el micro de mano. Vale, igual. Cerquita o...
Yo no voy a hablar ahora.
Sí, puedes también hablar. Ha dicho Susana que si quieres puedes también hablar y también te irán preguntando, así que sí, está súper bienvenido. Ah, pero es que viene Ismael por ahí. No, es que está... Ay. Si nos comentaros que intentemos hablar más cerca de mí, porque no se oía.
Ay, perdona.
No, que lo decían por streaming, que se puede traducir. Como a todos.
Bueno, ya llegamos a la segunda parte de este congreso. Antes de pasar a ello, os presento un poquito pues, las nuevas personas que tenemos ahora en la mesa para el resto de esta jornada. Tengo aquí a mi lado a Pau Mas, que es psicólogo deportivo, ¿vale? También es director del desarrollo de personas en Captiva Sports Academy en Barcelona. Y también el líder del departamento de psicología en la Academia de Básquet Girona. Y a su lado estamos también con Joel, que Joel también es psicólogo deportivo, investigador en psicología deportiva y es coordinador de proyectos en Captiva Sports Academy con Joel. Muchas gracias, chicos, por estar con nosotros. Ahí los vais a escuchar en una tercera parte. Y voy a dejar la palabra a Jorge, que os va a presentar a Hanna, que está con nosotros. Hablar un poco más de Ismael Santos. Solamente una cosita que quiero añadir y sobre todo pues dejarlo un poquito por ahí, que es un orgullo también para nosotros decir que las 4 personas que están aquí con nosotros también son docentes y hacen parte de los máster en Ciudad Deportiva de la Universidad. Muchas gracias por estar aquí.
Proud to have 4 of our teachers here taking the floor today. Well, thank you very much. In this second session, we'll be talking to Ismael and Anna. We'll be discussing mindfulness, basic. Ismael Santos is a former Real Madrid, Milan and Treviso basketball player. He's won the EuroLeague, the Spanish League, the Italian Cup and the European Super Cup. Currently, he is training in coaching and mindfulness. He's authored 2 books, and Anna is a doctor in sports psychology and expert in Gestalt therapy, and she works with sports archers, and she is an expert in character strengthening. Just to give you some context, in this second session, if you want to take the floor, you can just put up your hand. But before we do give the floor to the audience, I just wanted to ask a question myself. What is mindfulness to you? Well, to me, mindfulness means being aware of what is going on in the present, both in your body and in your mind. So it's a three-layered approach. That's mindfulness.
¿Me escuchas bien? Sí.
Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you.
Bueno, estoy básicamente de acuerdo con lo que
I basically agree with what you said, Hannah.
Información y desinformación acerca de
I think there is a lot of information and disinformation about mindfulness.
Hay muchas personas que
I think
se
that
dedican a trabajar
a lot
con
of people
mindfulness que no deberían de hacerlo porque no tienen una formación adecuada. Y eso es más perjudicial que beneficioso.
Purportedly work in mindfulness, but they really shouldn't because they're not adequately trained. They're not trained to do so. Okay. Mindfulness is nothing weird. It's nothing mystical or religious.
Nada realmente raro, sino que es una cualidad de la atención.
Again, it's not odd, it's not weird. It is a characteristic of our attention as human beings, and it is something we can do to simply become better grounded in the present. And this is something that we can do thanks to psychology and through practice. This is something I've been doing for 24 years, and it's not just a tool, it's a way of life. So this is something that you do yourselves. It's not just something that you ask your patients to do. Over to you, Hannah. Well, yes, absolutely. For me personally, it's very, very important. For me, it's important to, sometimes just stop, become grounded in the present. I like to focus on my body to become mindful, but there are other ways of becoming mindful as well. I work a lot with teenagers, but also with adults. And really, the way I explain it to them is all about conscience. I have to say that teenagers, especially girls, are very, very mindful in a way that adults don't seem to, be as good at becoming, and sometimes I actually learn from my teenage patients. When they get stressed, they really shine because of that. Yeah, it's a superpower, isn't it?
Para mí,
You've already asked me this question earlier. For me,
por ejemplo, un espacio de mindfulness o guiar una práctica si tú
for
no
me
tienes tu
personally,
propia práctica incorporada
you wouldn't be able to teach
diariamente.
mindfulness unless you're able to become mindful yourself, because you wouldn't come across as authentic.
Es algo aprendido, algo que has escuchado.
You'd be teaching people something that, yes, you've learned, something that surely you've heard about, and perhaps you'd be doing so with good intentions, but truly, I don't think you'd be able to get your message across, because mindfulness, in training, we say, is all about embodiment. That's what mindfulness is all about, embodiment. And this is what an instructor should be able to pass on as a message. So I assume that after applying mindfulness yourselves for so long, you've become aware of the benefits it has. What are the benefits? Should I start? Great. Yeah, I think it's got lots of benefits, and obviously, it could be difficult maybe to list them off the top of my head, but just to give you an idea, I think, at least to me, it's important to know when to stop and how to relax. As a sort of strategy that you can use to, face difficulties of life. When I become grounded, I feel calmer in my life. I feel I also feel what Ismail said. I have to be able, I have to know what mindfulness is all about if I want to be able to teach it. I like to become mindful, especially when I want to become more receptive than usual. That's another benefit. It makes you more receptive. What else? I really like it. I really like being in the present, because otherwise I feel like I'm just wasting my time. Obviously, it's impossible to be focused on the present all the time, but you know, I like to be mindful as often as possible because it helps me keep in touch with my priorities, my needs as a human being, etc. Before you answer, Ismail, you said earlier, Hannah, that you work with teenagers as well. Is it easier to teach them to become mindful, to teach teenagers if you normalize it? Well, yes, because it's nothing extraordinary, really, this technique. It's something that, in theory, we're all able to do. I like to teach mindfulness by connecting it with some sort of movement, breathing, for example. So there are several different ways of teaching how to become mindful. And yes, I do have a feeling that teenagers are better learners than adults.
Beneficios, ¿no?
Thank you, Hannah. Right, about benefits.
Beneficios, por ejemplo, conciencia corporal. La capacidad de poder tener una mayor conciencia del
awareness
cuerpo,
of your body, for example. Mindfulness makes you better aware of what's going on with your body at any given time.
Que es la capacidad de poder escuchar, digamos, a nivel
has to do with interoception as well, which is being aware of what sort of signals your body is sending off at any given time.
De cuál es tu conversación interna en cada momento.
So,
qué es lo que está sucediendo
being aware of what's going on inside you,
en relación a lo que está sucediendo. Conciencia de las emociones, evidentemente.
As a result of what's going on outside, mindfulness makes you better able at regulating your emotions depending on how you're feeling.
Relajado y de poder ir ajustando.
If you're upset or if you're relaxed, you can sort of adjust the level of energy that you need to the circumstance. And then another benefit is better decision making. Why? Because the more grounded you are in the present moment, the more likely you are to tell what you need to do at any given time. So another thing that I think is fundamental, really, and already been found by scientific studies, is that mindfulness makes you better able to react to situations. Mindfulness enables you in a way to react in a composed manner to difficult moments when, you know, you're faced with a great deal of pressure. So thanks to mindfulness, basically, you won't get carried away with whatever's going on around you. You'll be able to face it, keep calm in the face of all difficulties. And then the most important thing, perhaps, mindfulness makes you feel better. Makes you feel better because you feel in control of what's going on around you, and as a result of that, you feel good. Thank you very much. You said that you started training in this after your career as an athlete was over. Looking back in retrospect, do you think it would have helped you perform on the pitch? Well, yes, I think I would have been a very different player. Well, maybe not totally different, but it would have been great. Would have been a great help for all of the reasons that I just said.
Cuando era joven era más bien un caballo salvaje,
because you know
con lo cual me hubiera
when I
ayudado
was younger, I
mucho
was a
a
bit of a
regularme
wild horse, and
emocionalmente, me
mindfulness
hubiera
would have
ayudado mucho
helped me.
a
It
poder
would have gone a long way
relacionarme de otra
at
manera
helping me
con el público, con
self-regulate
los
my emotions,
periodistas,
relate to
con
the,
los entrenadores, con mis
you know, to
compañeros.
journalists,
Me hubiera ayudado
coaches,
también enormemente
teammates,
a no
would have
verme
helped
arrastrado muchas
me
veces por cierto tipo de pensamientos.
shed
Sin
harmful
duda
thoughts.
me habría ayudado también, por
It would
ejemplo,
have helped
a
me
escuchar más a mi cuerpo,
listen
¿no?
to my
Y no
body
hacer caso omiso,
better,
lo cual agradecería ahora porque no me dolería tanto algunas cosas.
which is something that now I would
Entonces, sin duda,
appreciate. I'd be
me habría
grateful for it now
ayudado
because
enormemente y
I
llevado
wouldn't have
luego a
so
lo
many
que en el
aches and
deporte se
pains
busca,
throughout my body.
habría aumentado sin duda el
And then
rendimiento.
this is something that's obviously important in sports. Yes, it would have improved my performance. As an athlete, how do you implement mindfulness on a day-to-day basis? Well, I think it depends on the individual. It depends on what sort of skills that you have as an individual. Some people are more prone to becoming mindful, but you know, there are little things, little gestures, little things that we can all try. Yeah. Understanding the feelings that you experience is extremely important, as Ismail was saying very, very often. Athletes don't quite understand what's going on with their bodies because they don't know how to listen to their bodies. They don't speak of their bodies. There's certain feelings we can experience more in certain parts of our bodies than others, for example. When I'm afraid, for example, or frightened, I can feel it in different parts of my body. And I know that by just looking in the mirror. So mindfulness is all about becoming aware of what sort of signals your body is sending to you. It's about learning the language that your body speaks. And there's something else that we call superactivation, and it's all about not worrying but just dealing with things as they come along. It's about feeling confident that you can deal with anything at the moment it begins to happen, and it's about being grounded in the present. Again, not thinking about the past, not thinking about the future, just you know, taking on the right perspective. And being grounded in the present. What do you think the main challenge is when it comes to mindfulness? But I think it really it's a new experience. So at first it's not easy. You need to be patient and learn this language little by little, because I have a feeling that a lot of people want to practice mindfulness, but they don't know how, and they're not patient enough to, you know, to learn it. So I try to help them by doing the things they have to do alongside them. If, for example, they are experiencing stressful thoughts, I teach them how to let them pass along. Stuff like that. I help them react properly to these stimuli. And what do you think are the main obstacles to learning mindfulness? Well, in my experience, I'd say that the main barrier, the main obstacle, aside from a lack of confidence or perhaps skepticism, is an inability
en los tiempos que corren.
to be
Entonces, está más de
at
moda
ease by
no sé
yourself.
cuántas
It's not in
diferentes
fashion, this.
páginas en internet en un
It's
minuto.
really not very fashionable
La
nowadays.
sobreactivación, la
Whenever we're alone nowadays, we
sobreestimulación,
immediately get
estar continuamente
active by, I don't know, looking up stuff on the internet, by scrolling down social media on
escapar
our
de dónde
phones.
estás,
We're never
buscando
idle.
hacer algo,
And if you're
buscando
unable
que lo que
to
está
simply,
sucediendo
you know,
sea de
stay
otra
idle
manera.
for a few minutes, it's going to be
Eso es
difficult
por lo cual estamos
to learn
casi siempre en el
mindfulness.
pasado y en el futuro.
But that's the
Entonces,
reason why most of our time
dificultad,
we
hay
spend
rechazo
thinking about the
a
past
de
or the
repente
future.
pararte, por ejemplo,
And
y a poder
today
escucharte, y a poder notar
we are
qué es lo que en
reluctant
este
to
momento
just, you
está
know,
contigo,
stopping, taking a
y a
break,
que desde ahí
focusing
puedas
on
empezar
going on
a,
with this
ok,
in
¿qué
this
es lo que
moment.
necesito? Como decía Hannah, hacer. Pero si no logro pararme y no logro saber lo que realmente está
But
dentro
if I
de mí,
can't take a
o lo
break,
que tengo a mi
then
alrededor,
I'll never find
difícilmente
out
voy a
what's
poder
going on
avanzar.
inside me.
Entonces, aunque esto parece muy obvio, pero luego la manera de vivir es todo lo contrario, ¿no?
And it may
Entonces,
sound obvious, but when it comes to
creo que
actually
ese es uno
experiencing it, it's the opposite.
de las grandes dificultades, ¿no? Es ir contracorriente.
That's perhaps one of the main
Puede
challenges.
parecer
It's going against the
¿por
current.
qué tengo que pararme? Cuando mi vida y todo lo
Because
que me rodea
we
va
often
tan
think, why do I
deprisa.
have to stop? Everything around me is going so fast. Well, that's exactly why you have to stop.
What happens with someone that is not used to stopping
Bueno, eso estoy de acuerdo totalmente
immediately?
con lo que decía Hannah.
Yeah, we totally agree with
Creo
Hannah in
que
that case. I
dependiendo de la
think
persona,
that depending on the person,
dependiendo, y aquí hay que tener mucho cuidado,
and we have to be very careful here,
de qué condición presenta
depending
esa
on
persona a
what
nivel
condition this person
emocional,
has
a nivel
at
de
emotional
cualquier tipo de
level,
patología que pueda
at
estar
any kind
presente,
of
por
pathology
ejemplo,
that may be present, for
tener
example.
mucho cuidado
We have
y
to be very
poder
careful,
introducir, pues, las prácticas de
and we have to
mindfulness
be able to
de una
include
manera
mindfulness
gradual,
practices in a
adecuada,
gradual way,
personalizada
in
a
the
cada
right way, in a
persona.
personalized way
Puedes
to every
hacer
single person.
lo maravilloso que tiene la práctica de
The
mindfulness
amazing
es que
thing that mindfulness
no
practice has
solo es
is
aquello
that
que normalmente puede
it is
pensar la
not
gente, que es
only what
sentarte
people
con los
may
ojos
think,
cerrados
that is, well, you sit
y
down with
hacer
your
un
eyes
tipo de
closed
práctica, sino
and
que
you
lo
do
puedes
some
hacer
kind of
en cualquier
practice.
momento de tu día.
But you can do
Cuando
that
estás
at
bebiendo,
any time.
cuando estás comiendo, cuando estás
When you're
hablando
eating,
con
when you're
alguien,
drinking, when
cuando
you're
estás
talking to
escuchando.
someone, when you're
Entonces,
listening.
es una práctica continua.
So it's a
Y eso es lo
constant
maravilloso, que
practice.
lo puedes
And that's
hacer
the amazing
continuamente,
thing. You
¿no?
can do that
Entonces,
constantly. So
también diría que en ningún momento se debe de forzar
I
a
would
una
say
persona,
that we
es
don't have to
decir,
force
es
anybody
algo
at any
que
time.
de manera natural
It's something in a
la
natural
persona
way.
debe de ir no adquiriendo,
I mean, the
porque
person
como he
has
dicho
to
al
acquire,
principio, es una
not
capacidad
acquiring,
que
but
todos tenemos,
it's a capacity that we all
y
have.
realmente si lo pensáis,
And if we
aunque
think
no
about
nos
it,
acordemos, cuando
although we
éramos bebés,
don't
cuando
remember
éramos
that when
pequeños,
we were babies,
estábamos en el
when we
momento
were small,
presente.
we were
¿Por
at
qué?
the present
Porque
time.
jugábamos, nos
Because we were
maravillábamos con
playing,
cualquier cosa
we
que
were
sucedía a nuestro
amazed by
alrededor.
anything that happened
Un
around
vaso era
us.
como wow.
A glass was like,
Cualquier
wow,
cosa. Eso
anything.
es estar presente, porque cuando logras estar presente,
Because when you're able to be
empiezas a
present,
maravillarte
you
de todo
are
lo que sucede
amazed
en tu
of
vida.
everything that happens in your life.
Empiezas a poder descubrir realmente
You're
lo que
able to
está sucediendo.
discover what's
¿Qué
going
sucede?
on.
Que hemos
So
ido
what happens?
desaprendiendo
That we've
esa
been
manera de estar.
unlearning this
Y
way
ahora
of doing things.
lo que se hace con esta práctica
And
es
what we do with this
volver
practice is to
a,
come back,
yo diría, nuestra naturaleza verdadera.
go back to a real nature, I would say.
Efectivamente.
Yep, that's it. Do you think there's any kind of biological impact in terms of mindfulness? I do think so. It's quite related because it is related with well-being. So it is also related to the hormones. But I'd like to add something. It's not only the point of I have to stop, but also how. Sometimes we're in the loop. We really don't know how to stop, although we wanted to. So we're adding more and more things, and if we are forced because of the injury, as you've said before, sometimes there's a very uncomfortable emptiness, and it's very difficult to get out of it. So it's very important to include mindfulness even at the academy to see how it works. I think that's important.
Sí, respecto a tu pregunta,
Yeah, regarding your question,
siempre hay controversia.
there's always controversy now that we are in an academic space.
No, pues como evidencias.
We want evidences and we want research, and I think it's going to be very difficult that we have the evidence, 100% evidence, because why am I saying this? Because when you are performing a research with different groups, the control group, the non-control group, there will always be something that we won't be able to measure. When you control, for example, a group of people, as for example it has been done for several days doing this kind of practice, there is something that you can't control, and that is the intensity with which every person makes it practice, so to speak. So when performing a global research and when having an evidence, mindfulness is good for everybody in these situations. No, of course it won't, because everybody arrives in a different way, because they practice in a different way. So I think, in any case, that there's a lot of evidence about how mindfulness practice done in a specific way and for a specific period of time and in a consistent way throughout time creates changes at neuronal level, a neurological level and a biological level. So I think that this gets more consistent, but there will always be that gap, that impossibility. You'll always be able to say, hey, yes, but this is not 100% proven, maybe not. Well, I know that you have prepared a practical exercise that could be applied here. Yeah, well, it's not that we have to prepare anything special, but do you want to do small practice? Yeah, I think that I've already taught some of you, so it's just about repeating. So how much time do you have? 10 minutes, maybe? Yep, okay. So, I'm going to go down with all of you. So one of the attitudes, as Hannah said, it is important, well, the how is important. So in the mindfulness practice, there are some attitudes. The attitudes are like when you're willing to do something. So first of all, we have the beginner mindset, so open mind. Let's go for it. I invite you to adopt a position in which you're comfortable, but with some indications. Your feet have to be on the ground. If you don't feel very much uncomfortable, try to detach your back from the back of your seat. That's it. And nothing will happen, okay? No worries. I invite you to close your eyes as far as everything's okay. If there's any kind of problem or uncomfortability, you can leave them half open. And now I invite you that gradually you can start feeling what's present for you right now. Feel what is present for you right now. And observing the kind of thought that you may have right now. Feeling the emotional situation, emotional environment, any emotion that you could feel right now.
Y te invito a que puedas simplemente permanecer con esta observación, con esta toma de conciencia sin tratar de analizar nada,
without trying to analyze anything,
sin analizar
without,
si está bien, si está mal, simplemente
without
notando,
analyzing whether it's good
sintiendo,
or
tomando conciencia
bad.
de
Just
aquello que en
be
este momento está presente para ti.
aware of what it is present right now for you.
Y de manera gradual, ahora te invito a que
And
puedas
gradually,
comenzar a tomar
I
conciencia del
invite you
cuerpo,
to be aware of your
notando las
body,
plantas de los pies apoyadas en
feeling
el suelo,
your feet that is on the ground,
notando también las zonas de contacto del
feeling
cuerpo
the
en el
contact points
asiento,
of your body on your seat,
notando la columna vertebral recta,
feeling your backbone
relajando los hombros,
totally
relajando
straight,
el
relaxing your
gesto de la cara.
shoulders, relaxing your
Te
face.
invito a que durante unos
I
instantes
invite you
simplemente
that
puedas
for a
notar
few
qué
seconds you
sensaciones
just can feel
van emergiendo de la postura.
what emerges out of this position.
Y te invito ahora a que también de manera gradual, a tu ritmo,
Now I invite
puedas
you
tomar
that
conciencia de
at
la
your pace
respiración,
you can become aware of your breathing,
tomando conciencia de ese proceso que haces
being
continuamente,
aware of the process that
pero
you
prestándole ahora
constantly
atención, tomando conciencia
perform, but
de
now
cada
being
inhalación,
aware of every
tomando conciencia de cada
breathing,
exhalación.
every inhalation, of every exhalation.
Sin tratar de manipular
Without trying
la
to
respiración,
manipulate your breathing,
simplemente notando cómo el aire entra,
just
cómo el
feeling
aire sale
how
del
the
cuerpo,
air goes in and
notando cómo el
out
cuerpo
your body,
respira por sí mismo,
how your body breathes by itself,
dejando que el aire fluya de manera
letting the
natural,
air flow naturally.
y te invito también a que puedas notar si en algún momento surge
Now I invite you
algún
to
tipo de
feel
distracción.
if there's any kind of
En ese
distraction
caso,
that emerges at any
la
point.
invitación es a que puedas darte
In
cuenta
that case, the invitation would
y a que
be
puedas volver
for
a
you to
llevar
realize of it
de nuevo la
and to bring
atención a la respiración.
back your attention to that breathing.
Y te invito ahora a que puedas
And now I invite you
dejar ir el
to
ejercicio
leave
y
this
simplemente durante
exercise
unos
and
instantes
just for a
que
few
puedas
seconds
estar plenamente presente aquí y
to be
ahora,
fully present
notando de
here
nuevo
and now,
cómo estás,
feeling
cómo te sientes,
how you feel,
descansando en este momento.
resting right now.
aceptando aquello que puede ir emergiendo y aceptando
feeling what could
la
emerge and
experiencia de
accepting
este
the
momento tal
experience of this
como es.
moment as it is.
Y te invito de nuevo a que puedas
I
ir
invite
tomando
you
conciencia del cuerpo,
to be aware of your body again,
haciendo cualquier movimiento que sientas que el
to
cuerpo
any
necesita.
movement that you consider that
En
your
caso
body
de que tuvieras
needs.
los ojos cerrados,
If you
vuelve a
had your eyes
abrirlos
closed,
lenta,
you can
suavemente.
open them
Y de nuevo
very
tomándote unos
slowly,
instantes
taking a few
para notar
seconds
cómo estás,
to feel the way you feel.
muy bien, ¿veis? Estáis vivas, vivos, no ha pasado
See, you're
nada.
alive,
No hemos
nothing
hecho
has
nada
happened,
raro.
we didn't do anything weird.
Muy bien.
Okay.
¿Hay alguien que le gustaría compartir
Is there
algún
anybody
tipo
that would
de
like to share
descubrimiento
any kind of
que ha tenido
discovery
durante la práctica,
that may
algún
have had during the
insight,
practice? Any
cómo se ha
insight?
sentido?
How did you feel?
Te llevo el micrófono.
Let me
Yo me subo
the
para arriba.
mic.
Bueno, no, me lo quedo yo luego.
No, I'll take it
Muchas
later.
gracias,
No worries.
Ismael.
Thank you,
Pues nada,
Ismael.
sobre todo la sensación de
I
pura tranquilidad
felt
y
that,
relajación.
totally
El hecho
calm
de
and
que,
relaxed.
pues
The
eso, ¿no?
fact
Poder
that
estar centrado un poco, el ver un poco
I
cómo tienes el cuerpo,
could
sobre
stay
todo,
focused. You
alguna
can
parte ahí
feel
que
your
tengas tensa
body.
ahí que no te das
There's
cuenta.
something that may be tense
Al
and
final
maybe
es algo que,
you're
se
not
nota
aware of
que
it.
si
In the end, it is
puedes crear una
something
rutina,
that, well, if you can
para ello
create a
puede hacer
routine for that,
una gran diferencia y
this
bueno,
can make the
sobre todo tengo
difference.
familia que
And well,
intenta
part of my
disuadirme a poder
family
hacerlo más a
is
menudo.
trying
Sé que al final
to
solamente se
to do
necesitan 5 o
this
10 minutos para
more often, and in the end, you just
para
need
esto
5 or 10
y
minutes
quieras
to
que
do
no, pues
this.
tiene una gran
And
ventaja.
whether you want
Al
it or
final
not,
sí
it
que
means a
Muy bien,
great
gracias.
advantage.
Una preguntita.
Thank you.
¿Crees
Just a
que,
question. Do you
simplemente
think
esto que hemos hecho hoy,
that this that we've
hecho de una
done
manera
today,
continuada en el
that has been
tiempo,
done
de una manera
if
metódica,
this is
crees que
done
podría
constantly in a
ayudar
methodical
a
way,
un
do you think that
deportista
this
en
could be
su
helpful
entrenamiento, en su
for an
rendimiento?
athlete in his or
completamente.
her
Al final
performance?
es algo que,
Yeah,
o sea,
100%.
para tanto cuando necesiten tanto
I think that
competir antes, después, durante, o sea, en el mismo
if
momento, al
you're
final estar
doing that
enfocados, no estar pensando ni en el
constantly,
resultado ni
1,
cuando
2, and 3,
terminarán,
you're not
solamente
thinking of the
pensar en
result.
si es en pádel, en el punto en el que están,
Maybe, for
en el
example,
fútbol
if
si
that's
faltan 5 o 10
the moment when
minutos, o
you,
sea, cualquier
for
cosa, al
example, if you're
final,
playing a
sobre todo el
game,
hecho de estar en el
5 or 10
momento
minutes left,
y no
the point,
pensar en nada más y
you
enfocarte
are just in that present time.
en esa situación, en ese mismo instante, pues quieras que no es
And
yo
I
creo
think
la mejor técnica para ello.
that is the best
A
technique
ti.
for that.
No sé si hay
Thank you.
alguien más que le gustaría
I don't know if
compartir
there's
algo.
anybody else that would
Tengo
like
que
to
llegar allí.
share something. Yep.
No, no, no. Todavía puedo caminar y moverme. Hasta que pueda moverme, pues oye.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es María
Good
Muñoz y
afternoon.
estoy
My name is
cursando
Maria
el
Muñoz.
máster en psicología
I'm
deportiva.
taking the
Compartiendo un
master's
poquito
degree
sobre
in
la
sports
experiencia del
psychology
ejercicio
and
que
sharing a
hicimos
little bit the
ahorita,
experience
pues
of this exercise.
identifiqué 3 partes mientras lo
I
hacía.
identified 3
La
parts
primera
while I
es
was
como
doing it.
cerrar los
First
ojos
one
para poder
is how to
bloquear todo
close my
estímulo
eyes
que
in
me
order to block
distraiga, de llevar la
every
atención
stimulus that
interna
could
hacia mis
distract me
propios
and to bring my
procesos.
internal attention towards my own processes.
Posterior a eso, pues dejarnos
Subsequently,
llevar por tu voz,
I
como
had
que
to,
ayuda también a encaminar la
we should just
concentración,
listen to your voice. That
de
helps us
llevar esa misma
stay
atención a nuestros
focused
procesos
and to bring
internos.
that attention to our internal
Y
processes.
dentro de lo que yo pude
And
tomar conciencia
according
es
to what
que
I was able
sentía mis
to be aware
manos
of,
un poquito
that I
sudadas,
was feeling a little bit
también como que
sweaty hands,
sentir
I would
en las
say.
yemitas de los dedos
I could
como
feel at the tip of
palpitaciones,
my fingers
a la
like
vez
beats, so to speak, like
el
heartbeats.
respirar, ser más consciente de la respiración, el
And I was more
inhalar,
aware of my
exhalar,
breathing,
como con mayor
inhalation,
conciencia, la
exhalation,
verdad. Y
with
en lo
a higher
que
level
pues ya
of
nos vas
awareness.
encaminando a nuevamente tomar conciencia de que estamos aquí, ahora,
And we are aware
en
that
este
we are
escenario.
here we right now,
como
at the
que
present
también
time.
uno, en lo personal,
And
se siente
thanks to
como
that,
que ya
we
le
can
presto atención a lo
feel
que estoy escuchando,
that we're
los
paying
tacones que se
attention to
escuchaban
what we're
afuera,
listening, the heels that we
o
were
por
listening
ejemplo los chicos de
outside,
cámara que de
or
repente
for
se están
example, the
comunicando para
Aves
poder hacer su
crew
trabajo
that
de
were
la mejor manera.
communicating in order to
Entonces
do their
como que
job the best
sí
way
puedo
possible.
notar que hay una diferencia
So
cuando
I can
ya
feel that there's a
estoy llevando mi
difference
atención a lo
when I'm
externo
bringing my attention to
y
the
que me concentro en
external
ello.
field
Y
and
bueno,
I'm
ahora de hecho
focusing on
que me
that.
atreví a
And
agarrar el
right now
micrófono
that
también
I dared
puedo
to grab
percibir
the mic,
cómo se
I
acelera
can
mi
perceive
respiración, se acelera
how
mi
my
frecuencia cardíaca
breathing
y
is
como a
faster and
pesar
how
de
my
que sé lo que
heartbeat
estoy
is
diciendo, pues
faster.
como que
And
también
although I
siento
know
un
what
poco
I'm
de nervios
saying,
de expresarme
I'm
al
a little bit
público,
nervous
entonces
because I'm
eso es lo
speaking
que
in
puedo
front of
tener
this
ese
large
fue el
audience.
momento.
So this is what it means for me to be
Cuando uno
aware
se
of my
para,
consciousness.
cuántas cosas se puede
Wow,
dar cuenta.
so many things, huh? You
Bueno,
can
muchas gracias.
you can feel many things when you
Bueno,
stop
creo
for a
que ya
minute.
vamos mal de tiempo.
Well, thank you very much. I
Soy
think that
especialista
we
en
have
examen
run out of
mental,
time.
entonces. ¿Alguien
Well,
más quiere
that's one of
compartir? ¿Sí?
of my
Creo que vas a ser
most
el último, si no me van a echar
most
bastante.
difficult things. I always run out of time.
Tengo la agenda.
My Spanish is not so good. Can I? It's a question.
Sure.
Can I ask in English if it's okay? What interests me most is like we speak about the benefits of mindfulness a lot, and through my practice and also with my clients, what I see like there's a also big danger where you consider like some kind of risk and which kind of people you would not work with mindfulness, because like mindfulness is like sometimes treated like it can solve all problems. But like I think there's also big risk, and can you speak about a bit of the risk and also where you're not treated like with mindfulness? Thank you.
Sí, I'm going to answer the question in Spanish. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, thanks. Bueno, muchísimas gracias por la...
Well, thank you very much. Did you all understand the question? Yep. Okay. Thank you very much for your question. In fact, it is a very important question, because it is true that it seems that sometimes, or it may seem that mindfulness is like magic. But it's not the case, and sometimes it would be even negative, especially when there are pathologies or disorders, especially at post-traumatic stress, people that have gone through traumatic situations. And in fact, that's why there's a mindfulness protocol sensible to trauma, because we need to be very aware of it. We need to be very careful with this kind of people, and unfortunately there's a lot, in order not to re-traumatize them, so that it is not negative instead of being positive for them. So although we have made a very short practice today here, and we did it this way, but normally we always need to know what kind of audience is your target audience, and what you're doing, how you're doing it, the kind of practice you're performing. Okay, so this is very important, and thank you. Thank you for the question. Well, we'll leave it here then. Jorge, thank you very much for your participation and collaboration. Thank you very much, Ismael. Thank you very much, Ana, for sharing this moment with us. And we will start with the third part of the conference, if it's fine for you. Yeah, it's perfect. So again, thank you very much to you both. And right now, at the beginning, we saw a little bit more about psychology. And the students that are here know a little bit about this. Maybe the ones that are online, you've learned some things. And we have different techniques. And we've talked about mindfulness, and we have the experience by Miguel that has explained how he worked with the athletes. But now we're interested in how we apply this in real life as a sports psychologist. We have two sports psychologists, Pau and Joel, that will explain how they apply these learnings on a daily basis. Thank you very much. The floor is all yours.
Okay. Después del mindfulness, ha ido bien esto,
Okay, so after mindfulness, well, this worked very well, right? At least it worked very well for us. How are you? Everything okay? I'm great. And you? Great. So let's go for it. Thank you very much, Luis. Thanks, Jorge. Thanks, Susana. It's weird to speak in Spanish with you. Joel and I worked together and we started together when we took the master's degree. So first message that we would like to convey is this one. Maybe you are with people that in the future will be connected to you, and it will be important to work together and to understand each other. We went to college together too. Yeah, that's true. So let's go for it. We'll try to explain how we plan the activities that have to do with psychology and sport at the entity that we work for. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Pau. I work in Basket Girona with the Academy of Basket Girona, and I work in the applied world in Captiva. That's the company that we work together. And I'm taking my PhD, and I combine teaching here at Module 3 of Intervention together with other other teaching activities. We see each other very often, and it's good that we are here right now, right? So how do we work from our psychology here in Captiva Sports Academy? So we have 3 big projects. First of all, we have Canada and the US. We have summer campus there with Real Madrid Foundation. And basically, it is 1 week through cities in the US and Canada in order to play football, to train. And from the psychology area, we are getting started. We are working in helping the ones that will be coordinators, because there will be many kids, many families. They will spend many weeks together during summer, and that means many hours, many families, many styles. And we all know that when we work as a team, there are moments when you say, well, this person, I don't like this person as much as I liked him or her during the first week. We have to live together for 4 weeks. It's not that easy. And right now, we are starting to work with them. This is a project that nurtures the other projects, because people and kids get to know us at that precise time. So Real Madrid Foundation proposes the second project. And this means that they come here to Madrid at Real Madrid Foundation, and they spend 1 or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, a period of time, during which they train in Madrid, at the sports city, different places. And how do we participate there? You can see images by Pau and our colleague Christian that is not here. This is the third psychologist that we have in Captiva. And basically what we do are talks with families. We speak about the role in order to help young athletes, and we speak about mental health in sport, other topics, etc. And we also develop different activities with the kids. For example, at the beginning of the week, the kids don't know each other, so we have to favor that they get to know each other, and we have to work on team building, and in parallel we have to give advice to the coaches that will be the ones that will be the most participative ones. These are the 2 interventions in these projects, but if we're not in Madrid, depending on the level of the features of the player, they have the possibility of coming to the headquarters that we have near Barcelona, where we have an academy. Okay. This academy is where Joel and I spend the vast majority of the time, and we have these facilities. There's a residency, we have rooms, there's a football pitch, and there's a school. They come along, and we split a 10-month program into 3 different areas. First of all, is the one that has to do with human development, where both Joel and myself are working there. Another one with the school. And another one would be technification and competition. So children are training during the morning at the academy, and in the afternoon they train at different clubs. They go to school, and when they finish, they come to the residency, and it is where we meet them. We perform all the invisible training in terms of mental coach, nutritionist, physiotherapist, etc., and many activities in order to make these months easier. You have to imagine that this is an international context with different cultures, ages between 13 and 17 years old. It's an intense and competitive environment with everything that it entails to have 25 bedrooms just with boys. So think about it. And with the families very far away. And they're normally families that have to do that exercise of sending their kids very far away. We are working with more than one approach, so to speak. Yeah, and as you were saying, we saw that Ismael and Miguel were speaking about this. In the end, children are working with us because of football, but they are not playing football all the time when they are at the residency or Sant Cugat nearby Barcelona. Well, they have to do things. They're far from their families, so we are more or less their parents in the sense we take care of them. We have the psychology part that is focused on sport, touching different performance aspects, but we work a lot in terms of psychoeducation. We are speaking about teen and adolescence time, so that's important. In terms of dual career, maybe we've talked about high performance and maybe some of them will make it, but others won't. So what can we do with all these athletes that are focused, that have very high expectations and so on and so forth? We are trying to accompany these athletes. So this is what we wanted to describe with this slide. The athlete profile that we get between 13 and 17 years old, and it's normally the first experience. They go away from home. There are people that repeat 1 year after another. There are different profiles for the vast majority of them. It's the first time out of home. If they spend 10 months, it's 10 months without their families. So the colleagues at the academy are their families. So it's something that we should take into account. And there are different levels, and there's reality shock. There are people that are very good at the US, in Canada, in the US. We have European countries, Bulgaria, Slovenia, and they really excel. They come here and maybe the reality is different. Maybe they're not the star of the team, or maybe they're at a category that is not as high as the one that they play for in the country, and they have to learn all this. They have to adapt to all this.
You know, we've all been teenagers, and we know what that's like, but anyway, what we try to do is encourage our students to get to know one another, because we want to be working with people who are independent. That's the idea, more or less. So, how do we plan out our activities throughout the season? We generally divide the season into two parts, from September to December, and then from January till June. From December to January, they have a 3-week break. So throughout these two parts, we look at what happens in their lives, in their personal lives, in their professional lives, and as a result of that, we take action. There are, for example, 4 main big aspects, from 4 important moments that we have to watch for when they come to us. For example, when they move in the summer, because, well, they're new at the time. They get there, they've got their own expectations. They have, you know, a lot of pressure that they're dealing with, a lot of things happening in a very short period of time, and they have to adapt, of course. And then they get there, and all of a sudden they realize they have to share a room with a teammate, perhaps the teammate that they're competing with over a starting 11 spot. And then they have to become autonomous, independent. They have to take care of their own haircuts. They have to, before they go home, they have to walk to the train station themselves and get tickets themselves. They've got to become independent. And then there's tournaments that they have to play and away games. And obviously we go with the kids, we go with the guys whenever they travel, but we are with them before, during, and after tournaments. And we're with them every step of the way. And when it comes to football, for 10 months straight, they compete in the league, in La Liga. Every morning they train. That's how they hone their technique, and we provide psychological support throughout. We've also got clinics and tournaments because those are important stages for us with the kids. You know, we go on away games, spend 3 days in a new city, spend a week somewhere for a tournament. And then there's a final important aspect to take into account, and it's school. Exam term is a crazy time of year, and the residents, when they get there, they have to adapt to an entirely new academic system. And let's not fool ourselves, they're not there to study, they're there to play football. That's what they like, that's what they prefer, which means that we have to enable them to reconcile sport with study time, to reconcile their sporting and academic lives. Yes, as Fabian said, there are many events throughout the year that they take part in, and each of them has different requirements. So here's a few highlights. Our students need to be adaptable because they get there, they're new, they don't know anybody, they need to introduce themselves to others, they need to get to know their new classmates, their new teammates. The staff members, you know, where they train, etc. They need to become adaptable, and we help them become adaptable. We provide them with the tools to be adaptable. Then we help them manage expectations. Some of them, as we all know, have high expectations. Making it to the very top, making it to Real Madrid's first team is very difficult, but some of them, you know, it's what they want. And perhaps for some of them that expectation is not realistic. Then communication. We communicate with them, communicate with the family. We help them communicate. Basically, at first it's difficult because they don't know us, they don't trust us, and we have to get them in a way to talk to us. And then motivation, emotional management, concentration, and finally teamwork. All of our guys throughout the week, they train with Captiva and with other clubs as well. But as Pablo was saying, we go to clinics, we go to tournaments, and we play as a team. So what we do is we try and create an environment whereby they feel like part of a team, so that when the time comes to play in clinics or in tournaments, they're all ready to play as a team. So from the psychology department, all of these personal and sporting events that we detected, as well as their requirements, is something we intervene on. And we do that indirectly. I'll tell you how in just a minute, or we do it directly. But let's look at how we intervene indirectly. Yes, at the end of the day, we're there to work with the players, but there are so many other people that can help us do that. So indirectly, we work with the school. We tell our students that it's very important that they study as well as play sports, all right? And so to that end, for me, it's very important to coordinate of their progress by talking to their teachers, so that I can find out if they need help. Their families are far away, so on a regular basis. We do a little follow-up session with their families by phone or virtual conference, and indirectly we work with coaches as well. We work with coaches and we help coaches plan out the season. There are times where our guys need to focus more on playing as part of a team, but there are times where they need to, focus on other things. So sometimes we'll help coaches work on aspects such as leadership, so that when the time comes, the students are ready to rise up to the occasion. And when it comes to direct interventions from the psychology department, let's say, this is what we do, especially at first. We need to provide students with the right information, all the information they need about what they'll be doing throughout the season. We use a questionnaire, which we'll be showing you in a minute, called Map Up, to carry out an initial valuation. And sometimes, if we need to do it, we do something called psych mapping, which is a great way of getting a visual take of what they need as individuals. And we do follow-up sessions. We work alongside coaches, the training sessions in the morning. On a weekly basis, again, we do a follow-up with our wellness questionnaire that I was telling you about. This is how we intervene directly. And our goal is, as Joel was saying, to enable our students to get to know themselves, to self-regulate, regulate their emotions, so that along the way, throughout the program, they can learn about that stuff. So what is MEPAT? Or it's a questionnaire made up of about 60 questions. When you finish it, you get your results, organized in 3 categories: external factors, internal factors, which describe how you're doing and who you are, and self-regulation capabilities, psychological self-regulation capabilities, what you can learn and what you already know when it comes to leadership, concentration, emotional control, stuff like that. So all players get one such summary, and within each of them you have a breakdown of what the category is all about, and we get notified of the results that our students receive, so that we can use it as a starting point whenever we have to work with that individual in one of our follow-up sessions. Yeah, and again, we use psych mapping as well. It's an interesting tool. Those of you who've had us as your teachers know about psych mapping, they know what it is. But anyway, we believe it works. We believe it works. We use it. It seems to work for us, and a lot of people who are just starting out in the profession, as well as experienced, seasoned professionals, seem to like it, and our students, our athletes and patients do like it. So here's an example of a map that you'd get through psych mapping. This is from a session we had in mid-November with one of our students. There are 3 categories here, as Pablo said: external variables, personal descriptors, and psychological skills. The map is color-coded according to how problematic the student proved in a certain aspect. And so we've got a visual map of how they're doing psychologically. By looking at this map, what is it you believe you should be working on with this guy? Is anything standing out at all to you? Anything standing out to you at all? Microphone, please.
Perfecto. O sea, al final, nosotros lo que queremos ilustrar un poco,
okay,
¿no? La relación
very well.
que podemos ver,
yeah.
que se vea todo. ¿Vale?
So,
Todo un poco la relación entre diferentes
what we're trying to do here is
tanto a nivel
illustrate
externo
the
como a
relationship
nivel
there
de
is
habilidades.
between
Entonces,
different aspects,
todos
both
sabemos que a nivel
internally
externo, a
and
nivel de
externally.
hay
We all
cosas
know that
que se van a
externally
necesitar
there
también,
are
pero
certain
entonces
things
con eso no
that,
podemos
well,
trabajar. Tenemos que intentar trabajar
if they're
con las cosas
outside,
que
they fall
podemos
outside
controlar,
of
¿no?
our
Entonces,
control.
a nivel de, por
But
ejemplo,
there
la
are some things that
concentración,
we do have some
especialmente al
control
inicio
over.
del partido, y la
Concentration, for example,
motivación,
especially early on in the
especialmente al
game.
inicio del partido,
Motivation,
vimos una
especially early
relación
on in the
entre
game.
esa falta de
There is a
motivación,
relationship
ya
between the
sea
two.
porque
When there is a lack
percibo
of
que mis
motivation,
rivales no son
whether
lo
that is
suficientemente buenos porque
because
creo que debería estar en una categoría superior,
our
lo
opponents
que sea,
perhaps aren't
¿no?
good
Pero tenemos
enough,
que ayudar al
whether it is
deportista a
because
que entienda
perhaps we
aquellas cosas
believe
que
that
puede
we
trabajar.
should
Es
be
decir, puedo trabajar mi
playing for a better
concentración
team.
para
Our
intentar rendir, porque si no,
motivation
luego, si yo no estoy
drops
concentrado al
and we
inicio
lose
del
control
partido,
over our
igual mi entrenador me
performance.
cambia. Entonces, a quien le repercute es a mí,
But if I'm
al
not
deportista.
concentrated
Por lo
early
tanto,
on
un
in the
poco
game, maybe
lo
I'll
que
get
hicimos en
subbed out
este
by my
caso
coach.
fue
So
pasar
it's something
a,
that you
luego podemos
need
entrar,
to
trabajar
exert control
rutinas para
over.
la concentración,
And so
visualización,
to that
técnicas, todas
end,
las que queráis, todas
we
las
have
que
our
sepamos.
tools that we like
Pero
to
sobre
use
todo
with
un
our
poco la
students. We
detección
teach
de,
them
vale,
how
esta es la tarea,
to
vamos
work
a
on their
partir de aquí a establecer
concentration
un plan. Y eso es un poco lo que
on the
hacemos,
one hand,
establecemos un
but
plan de
on the other
trabajo
hand, if we
durante
see that
todo el
this
año.
is a recurring problem
Exacto,
stemming
y a
from
nivel
a
de
lack of
mapa, por ejemplo,
motivation,
si Joel ha
we
trabajado
establish
con
a plan
ellos y
for
ha
that
salido este
individual
mapa, quizás
student.
Joel en 3 meses
Yes,
no trabaja
so
con él, trabajo yo, recibo el mapa y empezamos a partir del mapa, ¿no? O si en un futuro no estamos
this is what
ninguno de
the
los
map
dos,
is for.
quizás
If
tiene acceso a
Joel
esto. O con el mismo
follows a
jugador.
student for 3
Al
months
cabo
and
de
I
3
don't,
meses
at the end of
puede
the 3 months, I
repetir
get
tu
the map, I
consistencia
know
en el
what's
mapa.
going on
Y el
and I
jugador
can
cuando
pick up
sale
Joel's
de
work.
la sesión se lleva el mapa también y se lo quedas tú y se lo queda él, ¿vale? Y de algún modo es como
And players,
poder
when they
tocar lo que
leave
has
the
trabajado
session,
en sesión.
they take the map
Incluso
with
lo
them
que
so
seguramente
that they can
haremos con
keep
este
working
chico,
on
y
it.
ahora que lo veo me viene a la cabeza, es ofrecerle dentro de un par de meses
So what we'll
el
do with
mismo
this
mapa
guy
con las mismas
is
entradas en el mapa y lo único
in
que
a couple
haremos
of months'
es
time,
valorarlas
we'll
otra vez.
give
Es
him
decir, que
another
diga
version
si
of the map
sigue siendo muy problemático, si le sigue siendo muy
with
útil, ¿no? Y ver un
hopefully
poco si ha habido una
different color
evolución
codes.
positiva o
We'll
negativa en
see
este caso.
if
Te
there's
propongo
been
otro
a
trabajo.
negative or a
Entonces
positive
podríamos
evolution, hopefully
empezar
positive,
directamente analizando and demand
and give him a different
variables,
map.
¿sabes? Bueno, ya
Yeah,
veremos.
and
Nos pasamos el día así, ¿vale? Pero bueno.
we could
Y
start
del
perhaps
perder
by
ahí bueno,
undemanding rivals,
que a
but we'll
partir de
get to
mapas
that
como
later.
este, pues
Okay,
salen
so
diferentes tipos
using
de
maps like
posibles
that
sesiones,
as a
¿no?
starting
Y la
point,
temática de cada
we
sesión
plan
puede
out
ser
our
distinta, ya
session,
lo conocéis, podemos establecer objetivos,
sessions rather.
podemos trabajar el control de activación,
And in a
podemos
session, we can
preparar
do a number of
rutinas
things. We can
precompetitivas
establish
durante la
goals,
semana, entre partido y partido, ¿qué quieres hacer? Podemos intentar romper
activation
creencias, ¿no?
control.
Con
We
reestructuraciones
can
cognitivas,
set
técnicas de
pre-competition
visualización que hemos
routines.
comentado
We
antes,
can
cosas
teach
más a
them
nivel de
visualization
cohesión,
techniques,
técnicas de
cognitive
autohabla, cómo me hablo a
restructuring,
mí mismo. Esto es lo que intentamos hacer durante el año en estas
self-dialogue
sesiones
tools.
a nivel de
This is what
intervención
we attempt to
directa.
achieve throughout the year,
Y bueno, por
throughout
último, lo que
these
comentaba antes
sessions,
Pau, lo que intentamos
and
es,
that
al
comprises
final
our
tenemos
direct
entre 45 y
interventions.
50
And now
chicos,
finally, we've
somos
got every
3
year
personas
about
a nivel de psicología que
45,
estamos un poco ahí,
50
pero
students,
compartimos la información con el resto de
but we
staff que
share
tenemos. Lo que hacemos es
this
semanalmente
information with the rest
los
of the
chicos
staff.
hacen un
And so
autorregistro de diferentes
weekly,
variables relacionadas con el
our
bienestar.
students
¿Vale? Un poco también en la línea
self-register.
de intentar
They do a sort
aumentar
of
su
self-checking
autoconocimiento, que sean
thing,
capaces de parar
and
un
they tell
momento,
us
en este
how
caso lo
they're
hacemos los
doing
domingos,
in
parar un
relation
momento
to
y decir cómo
different
me siento a
variables. We
nivel
generally
de
do that
estrés,
on
a nivel
Sundays.
de
We
mi
ask them,
calidad del
how are you
sueño, a nivel de
feeling?
energía,
Are you feeling
a nivel de
stressed?
estado
Are
de
you
ánimo, a nivel
sleeping
de
right? Are you
rendimiento
feeling
escolar, diferentes
energetic?
variables, ¿no? Entonces tenemos el domingo para que
And so on and so
puedan
forth.
valorarlas
Different
en una
variables.
escala
We
Likert.
ask
Y
them to
paralelamente a esto
rate
también tienen el
themselves
espacio, no es obligatorio, lo de valorar esto sí que lo hacemos de manera obligatoria, pero tienen el
as
espacio a nivel
per
opcional de
those
escribir cosas.
variables.
Es una manera un poco para nosotros obtener información. El chico nos traslada sus dudas, sus
And that's it.
frustraciones, sus inquietudes,
And it is
todo lo que les
a tool
sucede, ¿no?
that they
Entonces,
have to
le
tell us
damos
basically how
información
they're
y también nos
doing,
viene muy bien para trabajar
tools.
tanto nosotros a nivel de psicología como con los entrenadores, como con las
And it's
familias, como
great
con todo el
for
mundo.
us,
¿Vale? Un poco al final,
psychologists, as well as
nuestra
for the
idea, y creo que va un poco en la
coaches
línea
and
de
the
lo que hemos
families and the
estado
students
hablando
themselves.
antes, intentamos intentamos trabajar de la manera más holística, poner a la
we
persona,
try
al
and
niño,
keep
en el centro,
a sort of
y luego
holistic
ya
approach. We
el
place the
futbolista es
student
una esfera que está ahí, ¿no? Muy importante para
at the
ellos,
center
pero
of
para
it all,
nosotros también, pero sobre todo el niño. Y estamos hablando de chicos de
and we
de
try
adolescentes
and
que se están
address
desarrollando a
both
través del fútbol.
professional sporting aspects
Os dejamos
as
aquí
well as
nuestro
personal
contacto y ahora, bueno,
things.
si tenéis alguna pregunta,
This is our
si
contact
tenéis un
information if you want to
¿Tenéis
note it
algunas
down.
preguntas?
And now if you've got any questions, feel free to ask.
Creo que lo has hablado tú, Joel, que te encargas tú un poco más de esa parte.
Joel, I
Te
think
quería
you
preguntar un
said,
poco de cómo
I
soléis
think you're in
trabajar,
charge
si
of
tenéis algún consejo en el tema de,
this thing that I'm about to
para
ask
al
you.
estudio, sobre todo
How do you motivate
en
kids
colectivos con
to
expectativas
keep
muy
on
crecidas, ¿no? Como ha
studying?
comentado, todo el mundo quiere jugar en el Real Madrid, es obvio.
As you said, everybody
El sueño
wants
de casi
to play
cualquier
for Real
niño
Madrid.
o de
Obviously,
jugar con el
that's
Barça o en el
any
equipo
kid's
favorito.
dream,
Pero
playing for Real
si
Madrid or
tenéis algún consejo
Barcelona,
de cómo soléis
whichever their
afrontar este
favorite
tipo
team
de,
is.
cómo llevar a
And
cabo
when
ese
they
cambio
get
de
disappointed
expectativas
because, you know,
y ayudarles a
their
que se
expectations
enfoquen
get
más, que
subverted,
vean la
a
importancia de
lack of
esa
motivation may lead
actividad.
to impaired
Mira,
performance in
ahora
school. How do you
hemos
address that?
empezado a implementar un poco, estamos haciendo un poco un piloto de... No es
Right, so
enfocado
right
tanto a
now
los estudios, pero es enfocado
we
a buenos
have
hábitos de
this
vida.
sort of
Porque al final lo
pilot
queremos un
project
poco, o sea, lo que
where
decía
we're
antes, es que
looking at,
intentamos trabajar de manera holística. ¿Qué hemos
and
hecho
again,
ahora?
we're
Es un
trying
poco
to
tirar
have
de la
a
psicología más
holistic
clásica, tirar al
approach.
condicionamiento más básico, pero lo que hacemos es,
We're
hemos
looking at
desarrollado un
that
juego de cartas, no
exactly,
sé si habéis
school
jugado alguna vez a FIFA,
performance.
supongo que sí, ¿no? Entonces
I don't know if
tenemos
you ever
unas FIFA
played
cards que las
FIFA,
llamamos,
the video
y lo que
game.
hacemos es
Now we've put together a
semanalmente, cada
card
2
game
semanas,
called FIFA
valoramos a los
Cards.
chicos, los que
Every
están de
week
resi,
or
de
every 2
fútbol y todo,
weeks,
en base a diferentes hábitos, no fútbol, sino a nivel
we
de estudio, a
evaluate
nivel de,
our
a
students'
nivel de orden,
performances
a
based
nivel
on
de limpieza,
different
a nivel
variables,
de
not
hábitos
football,
alimenticios, muchas
how well they're
cosas.
doing in schools,
Entonces,
how well they're
ahora
eating, how
mismo lo que
well they're
estamos
sleeping, how
intentando crear es un
tidy
buen
they're
hábito en
keeping their
ellos
room,
en base a
and then
darles
we
algún tipo de
reward them
incentivo.
for their
Por ejemplo,
performances with FIFA
yo qué sé,
cards.
tienen un
So
curfew,
we're
tienen
trying to
una hora de
create an
llegada
incentive.
el viernes
If
por
they
la
have a
noche a las
curfew
6:30,
on Friday
pues si
night,
tu puntuación está por encima de los 90, pues igual puedes
10:30,
llegar a las 11, ¿vale? Esa semana. Pero bueno, va
but
cambiando,
they've
¿vale? Luego hay
performed
hay
well
otros
throughout the
incentivos que
week,
tenemos, no sé, actividades que hacemos los fines
maybe
de
they can
semana,
come back at
la intentamos
11
promover un
instead of
poco,
10:30.
porque es
Okay,
verdad que al final
so
vemos
we
que
try giving them
por el texto
incentives
cuesta
to do
motivar
well in
al
school
chico al
as well as
estudio,
in other aspects,
¿vale?
because
Pero bueno, buscamos
it's
la
true, it's
manera
difficult
desde igual
to
la
motivate
psicología
them
un
to
poco más
study.
básica
And
para
so
motivarles y
we
que sigan
use
estudiando.
basic psychological
O sea, algo
tools such
también
as this, incentives to motivate
pues,
them, to keep
entradas
them
al partido
motivated.
del Barça, el
Well,
español, que
yeah,
están cerca,
other possible
camisetas de
incentives
equipo,
are free
Un
tickets
poco.
to game,
pero eso
although
sí que
that's
les
rare.
damos en común.
Free tickets to
Siempre
the
hacemos
Classico,
reuniones con
but that's
familias
quite rare.
mensuales y ellos lo saben.
And then on a monthly
Si una
basis,
familia también
we
se impresiona
organize
cartas,
meetings with their
algunos
families, and
podrían
that's
pensar, bueno, me da igual
an
todo,
important card to play
si
because
siempre
obviously
no voy a
they do
estudiar,
live far away,
estamos todos conectados siempre. Un poco.
Al
and
final un poco
children might
también
think they don't
cuando
need to
se dan
study because their
cuenta a veces
families
de,
are far away
ostras,
and they won't
igual no
notice,
llego
but no,
a
because they
la
see them every
élite,
month.
pero puedo vivir del fútbol, ¿no? Entonces,
And
el
anyway, it
decir,
is our job to
igual puedo
explain
con
to
mi
these
nivel de
kids that,
fútbol, puedo
all
tener
right,
una beca en
maybe they
Estados
won't make
Unidos,
it
en
to
mi
the very,
país,
very top,
en
but
otro
still
sitio, me
they
puedo
can
quedar
make
aquí, lo que sea. Entonces, tener esa
playing football,
oportunidad
maybe
lo que
playing
haces
in
es
the
ver
US
que,
or
ostras,
in a lower
el
league here
fútbol
in
puede ser un
Europe or in
vehículo para
Spain.
seguir estudiando.
The football can actually be a tool that you can use to convince them to keep studying. Microphone, please.
Nosotros trabajamos el mensaje en todo el staff de que nadie nunca podrá decirle a un chico que será profesional.
The
100%, y que no lo
message
será. ¿Vale? Esto nos coordinamos todos en qué
for
tipos de mensajes
our
le
staff
lanzamos.
is
Y
that
después
nobody,
hacemos
no
esta
staff
prevención
member can
y
ever tell
tenemos meetings
students
con todos, que casi
that
una
they
vez cada
will
15 días va
become a pro
apareciendo el mensaje
or that
de
they
la
won't.
importancia de, ¿vale? Pero
And then
lo que
as we
nos
go
ayuda más de
along,
todo
we
es
sort
que
of
con los
realize how
niños
far
del
they
país
can
que
make
sea,
it
si
and,
llegan a España,
you know,
si vienen nivel de
adjust
fútbol que
their
hay,
expectations
hagamos
accordingly.
lo
But when they
posible.
get
Nuestro
here,
trabajo
normally
es
they come to Spain,
recogerlos
they
y
realize
decir,
how
ok, ya
demanding
llevan 8 meses
football
aquí,
in
vamos a
Spain is,
aprovecharlo. Has visto que el nivel del
you know,
yo que
and
sé,
they're in
equipo
shock
C
very, very
es
often.
superior al tuyo.
They
Y es un
realize
choque
that
fuerte de decir, es una transición cuando llegan allí
seating
de
players are,
adaptarse a
you
eso.
know, better
Y nosotros
than
trabajarlo
certain
con la
kids
motivación
who've
correcta y
come to
decir, ok,
Spain from
vamos a
abroad
aprovechar el año,
to
vamos
play
a autoconocernos y
for
sacar
us,
de
for
cara
Real
qué
Madrid or what
puedo
have you.
mejorar yo en
And
esta
that's a big
actividad.
shock.
Sobre
And
todo
so
eso.
we try
Cada
and
uno, el
gauge
deporte te
their
va colocando en tu
expectations
sitio,
and
¿no?
help
Si tú
them
crees que
make the
quizás
most
eres el mejor en
of
algo,
the
bueno, pues
experience.
tendrá que ver,
This
porque van
is
pasando los
part of the
años,
beauty of sport, really, because sometimes you think you're the best of the best, and then all of a sudden you realize that you're not. Okay?
Eso sobre todo, pero intentamos hacer la prevención también con las familias, lanzando el mensaje en las familias.
Yes, that's also one of the things that we do alongside their families. Are there any other questions for us?
No es una pregunta, es una respuesta a él también. que como él comentó ahorita en el establecimiento
It's
de
actually
metas,
not a question,
al
it's an
ser
answer.
metas realistas, ellos también acompañan en este
Since
proceso de, ok,
these
tú
goals
estás
are
en un
realistic,
nivel C, o sea, obviamente tú no vas a llegar
the
corriendo al
goals they
escalón de llegar al Real Madrid. Entonces, el
have are
proceso de
realistic,
camino de tú establecer metas
they
en
explain
la
to them,
liga
look,
también se da
you're
cuenta y
in
se hace consciente
juvenile
de qué
C
tan
team,
realista están
you won't
siendo
make
los
it to Real
procesos. O sea, el
Madrid's top
psicólogo
team
también
tomorrow.
se encarga de
And
hacer consciente a
it
la
is a
gente de qué
psychologist's
tan
job
honesto y
to
consciente está haciendo con sus
explain to
propios
an
logros.
athlete
Entonces, yo entiendo que eso
how
sería
far
como
along
una respuesta.
down their path they've made it and how realistic their expectations can be. It's something that
Estoy de acuerdo,
psychologists do. Yes, I agree. I agree.
Si no hay más
It
preguntas,
is part
vamos
of our job.
con la
Right. So
segunda
if there
parte
aren't any
de
more
nuestro momento,
questions,
¿vale?
we can move on
Ahora os pediremos
to
que
the
hagáis un poco
second part
el
of
rol
our
pasivo que tenéis, ¿vale?
session.
¿no? La descripción decía
Right.
que
So
era,
far,
tenemos que hacer unas dinámicas
you've had a bit of a
aplicadas a la
passive
psicología
role,
deportiva,
if
¿vale?
you
Entonces
will,
pediremos a
but
todos
now
que
this is
participéis,
going to
que ahora os estamos
change.
exigiendo un poco.
You're all
Pues,
going to
nos
be
pedimos-
taken
Nosotros habíamos dicho que nos teníais que ayudar, pues
in
no.
Ya,
this
si no, no hace falta.
Lo siento.
second part of
Sorpresa,
this
no te-
session. You're going to need to
a
help
ver si me
us
puedes pasar la diapositiva.
to
Vale.
bring this
Vamos con la
home.
2 ya
Sí,
directamente.
vamos
Right,
a-
let's
tenemos mucho tiempo.
next
Nada.
next slide,
Lo que
please.
haremos es, os presentaremos una
What we're
dos
gonna
palabras,
do
¿vale? Y un
is
número. Entonces, las palabras indican algo que tenéis
we'll
que
give
hacer.
you two
Por
words.
ejemplo,
The
dirá
words indicate
arriba,
something you have
derecha.
to do.
Entonces,
If we
tendremos
say
que
top
todos
right, for
levantar
example,
las dos manos y ir a la derecha.
you
¿Vale?
have
Hasta aquí
to
fácil. Si dice
put
arriba
both
izquierda,
your hands up
iremos a
and
la
move right.
Me he
If
liado
you
yo, me he
say
liado yo, perdón.
top left,
Estaba
you
ya-
put up both
es
your
que
hands and you
estaba
move
pensando
left.
en lo siguiente. Pero bueno, siguiendo de
Aquí y
Okay.
ahora.
Aquí y ahora, exacto, ya voy anticipado. ¿Vale? Entonces, la idea será que
So
lo que
this
os
is the
pediremos es que
idea.
aún no os levantéis, por favor, pero os tendréis que
Don't
levantar.
don't
y
stand up
iremos
yet, but
sumando-
we'll ask you to stand up
sumando
in just a minute,
indicaciones, ¿vale? Cada
and
indicación tiene un
then
número.
we'll be
Entonces, yo
giving
cuando
you
diga el número 1,
instructions,
tendréis que
and we
hacer
will associate
la
a number
indicación
with
que
each
decía. Cuando
instruction.
diga el 2,
So
tendréis que hacer
if I
el
say
2. Cuando diga el
1,
3,
for
el 3.
example,
Y
you have to
haremos así
perform
sucesivamente.
the
Vamos a
action that
trabajar
we've
un proceso
associated with
muy
number
básico,
1. If I say
como
2,
es la
you'll have to
memoria,
perform the action
¿vale?
associated with
Enfocada un
number 2.
poco al
We'll be
deporte.
working
Os
on
pedimos
a very,
todos,
very
por favor, que os
basic
podáis
thing,
levantar.
memory. So
Vamos
let's
arriba.
all
Un momento.
stand up now, please.
Para la gente que está en inglés, arriba, derecha, sí.
Okay, so for those of you who are listening in English, it's probably going to be easier if you just
Vale, entonces,
learn how to
ya
say it
veréis,
in Spanish.
aparecerá primero la indicación, ¿vale?
Right,
Daremos unos
so
segundos
you'll
para
see
que
the
la memoricéis
instruction
y luego
on the screen.
se
We'll give you a few
saldrá la
seconds to
indicación.
memorize
Entonces, cuando
the
digamos ya,
instruction
cerráis
and
los ojos, ¿vale?
associate
Cuando yo
it
diga
with
el
this number,
número,
and then
hacéis
close your
esto,
eyes. I'll
¿vale?
ask you
A
to close your
medida
eyes.
que os
When I
equivoquéis, os tendréis que
shout out
sentar.
the number, you
Os pedimos
perform
que
the
seáis un poco
corresponding
honestos y
gesture.
honestas, porque intentaremos
Please
controlar
be
los detalles, pero
honest.
igual cuesta un poco.
Please
¿Vale?
be honest.
Somos jueces también,
Sí.
¿no?
Because
Si hay que
don't
señalar
open
así,
your
¿vale?
eyes.
Le
El
señalamos.
bar.
Because if you see what the others are doing, you'll just do what
Venga,
they're
vamos
doing,
allá.
and that's
Vamos
no
allá.
good. Hey,
Los polis malos.
Vale, ahora cerramos los ojos.
okay, let's
Todos cerramos
close
los
your
ojos.
eyes now. Close your eyes.
It's a test. Y ahora tenemos que hacer lo que decía el número 1, que era
And now
el gesto.
we have to do what number 1 said.
Vale, bueno, hay gente que creo que es de inglés porque abajo,
Yeah,
ok, we can open the eyes.
the people who
Abajo
speak
means
English.
down, arriba up, ok. ¿Ya?
¿Volvemos a empezar o no?
No, seguimos,
Seguimos,
yo creo que
¿eh?
seguimos bien. Venga,
Yeah, let's carry on.
vamos. ¿Lo habéis entendido? ¿Sí?
Did you
Vamos
get it?
allá. Segunda.
2.
Vale. Ahora cerramos los... Bueno, no hace falta cerrar los ojos. No hace falta.
Es que si no van a copiar.
You don't need to close your eyes anymore. Yeah, but if they don't keep their eyes closed, they're gonna just copy what the rest are
Cerramos
doing.
los ojos, we close the eyes, y
Okay,
hacemos
close
el
your
1
eyes.
y hacemos el 2.
Number 2.
Vale. Aquí tenemos a gente que ya se tiene que sentar. Vale.
Okay. Some people have already lost. They have to sit down. Please
We
sit
show
down
the
if
two
you
for
got.
number 2. We need to pay attention. Sí. Venga, seguimos.
Seguimos.
Pásalo, pásalo.
Vale.
Okay, let's continue.
Número 3.
Venga.
Number 3.
Cerramos los ojos
Close your eyes now.
y hacemos el 1.
1,
Hacemos el 2 y hacemos el
Two.
3.
3.
Vale, muy bien. Abrimos los ojos. Hasta aquí bien, vamos bien.
Nos
Open
hemos
your
quedado
eyes.
con los que...
So far,
puedo
so
decir, ¿eh?
good.
Vale, seguimos. Venga.
Only a handful of them left now. Let's carry on.
Cerramos los ojos. Y 1.
Close your eyes. 1,
2,
2,
3,
3,
4.
4.
Vale.
Very good.
Sentado ya.
Sí. Muy bien la gente honesta. Muy
Few
bien.
people have had to sit
vamos a por
down
el
because
siguiente.
they lost. Good. You're honest.
Número
Next one.
5.
Number 5.
Cerramos los ojos.
Close your eyes now.
1,
1,
2,
2,
3,
3,
4,
4,
5.
5.
Vale, ahí hay dos que se sientan muy bien. Sí, sí. He visto liados. Venga, seguimos.
Seguimos. Número 6.
Ojo que cambia ahora, ¿eh?
Number 6.
Vamos allá. 1, ojos cerrados.
1,
2,
2,
3,
3,
4,
4,
5
5,
y 6.
and 6.
Muy bien. Vale.
Very good.
¿Cuánto?
Seguimos, seguimos. No hay pausa aquí.
Okay, let's
7.
let's
Atentos,
carry on.
atentas. Se está viendo. Venga, ya.
Pay attention.
Cerramos los ojos.
Close your eyes.
Pau, quita eso, por favor. 1,
1,
2,
2,
3,
3,
4,
4,
5,
5,
6,
6,
7.
7.
Vale. Ahí ese ahí.
Very good.
Venga.
Número 8.
Atentos, atentos. Número 8. Vamos allá.
Number 8 now.
Ojos cerrados. 1,
Close your eyes. 1,
2,
2,
3, 4,
3,
5,
5,
6.
6.
Ahí hay un compañero que se tiene que sentar. Seguimos, ¿eh? No abres los ojos.
Someone needs to sit
7,
down over there. 7.
8. Ahí
8.
la compañera de ahí atrás se tiene que sentar. Sí. Español, inglés.
Think she needs to sit down. Yeah, you have to sit down.
Sorry, sorry. Venga,
Yeah, you got it wrong. Sorry.
Seguimos.
Right. Not a lot of you
9.
left now.
Atención,
Let's
¿eh?
carry on. 9, 9.
Vale. Ojos cerrados.
Close your eyes.
No vale chivar, ¿eh? Los otros, cuidado. 1,
Don't rat the others out. 1,
2,
2,
3,
3, 4,
5,
5,
6,
6,
7,
7,
8.
8.
Ahí hay una compañera que sabe que se ha equivocado. Se tiene que sentar.
Someone knows
No
they
abramos
got
los
it
ojos.
wrong and she
9,
needs to sit down. Don't open your eyes. 9,
9.
9.
Vale. Ahí se sienta una compañera. Venga, seguimos.
Let's carry on.
Último. Número 10.
La final.
This will be the final, the last one. Come on.
Venga, cerramos los ojos.
So let's close our eyes.
1,
1,
2,
2,
3,
3,
4,
4,
5,
5,
6.
6.
Aquí sí, te toca sentarte.
Yeah, you have to sit
7,
down. 7,
8,
8,
9.
9.
Vale, lo has hecho a voleo, pero lo has
Okay,
hecho bien.
you did it
10.
random, but it worked. And 10.
Vale, gente que mal. ¿Quién se ha quedado en pie? A ver.
So who's
Sí, aquí
standing
están
up?
bien. Muy
Yep.
bien, un aplauso para ellos. por
Here,
favor.
that was fine. A big round of applause for them,
Vale.
please. Okay.
Ahora, una pregunta muy rápida. ¿Cómo
So,
podemos,
very
¿qué
quick
creéis que
question.
¿Cómo podemos
Why,
extrapolar este ejercicio
how
a
can
la
we
psicología del
extrapolate this
deporte?
exercise to sports
¿En qué momento
psychology?
concreto? ¿Con quién lo
At what
usaríais?
specific time? Who would you use this with?
Porteros para una tanda de penaltis.
Goalkeepers for a penalty
Ellos al
kick.
final, ahora vemos a
Yeah,
los
but in
porteros,
the
¿no?
end,
que ponen
now we
en la
see
botellita,
goalkeepers that
dónde va
use a
a chutar
bottle
cada futbolista,
where
pero
every
bueno,
player is
todo el
going
mundo le
to
gusta
shoot,
esto.
but not everybody
Pero,
likes
claro, yo
this.
tengo a mi portero que se está
But I have my
jugando,
goalkeeper
está jugando la
that
final de la Champions, que
is playing the
está,
final of
intentando
the Champions
recordar
League, is trying to
dónde
remember
chutaba
where
el mejor chutador de penaltis del otro
the
equipo, que no
best
quiero decir que quede
penalty
nada, porque está
scorer
la
was
Champions,
shooting. I don't want to
Pero,
speak
¿no?
about any
Entonces,
team because Champions League is very
es un
very
poco
exciting.
un
But
ejercicio adaptado a esto, ¿vale? Pero
this
que
is an
podemos
exercise that is
trabajar
adapted to all this, but we
psicológicos
can
básicos
work
en
on
el
basic
deporte
psychological
con nuestros
processes in sport with
Vale,
our
y ahora
with
vamos
our
a hacer
athletes. Okay,
más rápido
and
aún,
now
otro ejercicio.
this will be
El
even quicker.
segundo ejercicio.
Another
De 6. Un momento, podéis hacer un grupo de 6. 6 aquí, 8 groups of 6.
Groups of 8 groups of 6.
Y también tendremos que estar pues de pie.
And we
Cada
will
grupo
have
tendrá una
to
pelota
stand
de
up.
tenis, ¿vale?
Each group will have a tennis ball.
Sí, súper interesante, sí. Además, cosas después decía, sí, es verdad, se me olvidó, ¿sabes?
Oye, Hanna, ¿de dónde?
De República Checa.
República Checa.
Estudié en Autónoma en Barcelona el doctorado, pero bueno, era como...
¿De clases?
Cada grupo necesita una pelota de tenis.
Each group needs one tennis ball.
Tenemos 8 grupos.
We have 8 groups. Do we have them?
5. Si son 5 no pasa nada, ¿eh?
If it's 5, it is okay.
No pasa nada. Sí, tenemos grupo.
Yep.
A ver,
Do we
vosotros
have a
seréis
group?
grupo 1.
Okay, you will be group 1.
Vosotros
Okay.
seréis grupo 2.
You'll be group 2.
Grupo 3.
Group 3.
Grupo 4.
Group 4.
Grupo 5. ¿Es un
Group
grupo?
5. That's a group, yep.
Grupo 6.
5. Group 6.
Grupo 7. Y todo esto es
7.
grupo 8.
And this is all group 8, right?
Pues seréis grupo 8 todos, ¿vale?
Okay, so you'll be group 8.
Necesitamos 8 grupos. ¿Sí?
We need 8 groups, okay?
¿Quién es
Yeah.
grupo 2?
Who is group 2?
Bien, ¿quién es grupo 6?
Group
¿Quién
6.
es grupo 7?
Group 7.
Grupo 8.
Group 8.
Grupo 3.
Group
grupo
3.
1,
Group
grupo
1.
4.
Group 4.
Grupo 5.
Group 5. Okay.
Solo hay 3 normas.
There are
3
just
normas,
3
¿vale? Con la
rules
pelota.
with a ball.
Corrígeme si
Just
no está
3.
bien, ¿eh?
Please
La pelota
correct me if I'm wrong.
Siempre
The
tiene que
ball
estar en movimiento.
always has to be moving.
La pelota siempre tiene que estar en
The ball
movimiento. Primera
always
norma.
has to be moving.
Segunda norma. La
Second
pelota
rule, the ball
tiene que tocarla todo el mundo.
has to be touched by everybody.
Tiene que tocarla todo el mundo.
It has to be touched by
La tercera
everybody.
norma.
And the
No
third
se puede
rule,
utilizar ningún objeto.
you
solo
can't
vosotros.
use any object, just you.
3 normas.
3 rules.
No me acuerdo.
Que no se puede utilizar ningún objeto.
Can't remember. You
no se
can't
pueden
use any
utilizar
object.
objetos.
You can't use any object.
Sí.
Yeah.
¿Vale? Imagina.
¿Cuál es
Okay.
el objetivo?
El
What's the
objetivo
goal?
de este juego es
The goal of
hacer
this
tantos
game
pases con la pelota
is to
como
make as
sea
many passes
posible.
with the ball as
Y
it
estáis
is
en fila,
possible.
estáis en círculo,
You
vosotros
are in a
decidís.
line, in circle, you
Una cosa
decide.
importante.
And one important thing,
Tenéis 45 segundos.
you have
y tenéis que
45
contar en voz
seconds
alta.
and you have to count
Pero
out
es
loud.
lo mismo, no podemos controlarlo
Okay?
todo,
And
por lo
this is
tanto,
the
sed
same. We
honestos,
can't
honestas.
control everything, so please be
Todo el
honest.
mundo tiene que tocarla.
Everybody
La
has
pelota
to
tiene que
touch
estar en
it.
movimiento.
The ball has
y
to
no
be
se pueden
moving.
utilizar objetos.
And you can't use any
Vamos a
object.
hacer una prueba.
So let's make a test.
45 segundos.
45. Please listen.
¿Escuchamos?
Listen, please. Hey.
Vamos a hacer un warm-up, un calentamiento.
So we're gonna make a warm up.
Empezamos en 5,
Let's start in 5,
4,
4,
3,
3,
2,
2,
1,
1,
ya.
go.
O sea, la pelota tiene que estar siempre en movimiento, la tienen que tocar todos y solo pueden utilizar las manos. Entonces, lo que veo es que hay distintas estrategias.
Creo que entendieron pase como pase, no como toque.
Ay, qué bueno, Hanna. Lo de la... Y has estudiado cosas así que te han impresionado. Sí.
Vale, ¿es pasarla?
Aunque ahora hay más que
Tiempo.
Tiempo.
Time's
Tiempo
up.
y
Time's
silencio,
up.
por favor.
And silence, please.
Tenemos que
Un
hacer
momento.
una cosa y es traspasar.
We have to
Traspasar el número. Equipo 1, ¿cuántas
take
veces?
a break. So
Un momento,
team number
cuarta
1, how
norma,
many
por
times
favor.
did you
Al
do
final
it?
de
Four,
cada
yeah,
ronda
fourth
tenemos que
rule.
intentar
At the
hacer
end of every
silencio.
round, we need to try to
Vamos
be
allá.
quiet.
Equipo 1.
So team 1,
105. Equipo
105 para el
105.
equipo 1.
105 for
Equipo
team 1.
2.
Team
Bien.
2,
Suena
100.
inventada, creo.
I think that they made it up.
Equipo 3. Equipo 3.
So team number 3.
Equipo 3, ¿dónde estáis?
Espera, equipo 1, 105.
So team
equipo
number 1.
2, 100.
Team number 2.
Equipo 3.
105, 100.
124.
Team 3, 124.
Equipo 4.
Team 4.
Equipo 4.
Team 4.
110.
110.
110.
Equipo 5.
Team 5.
108. Uf, ¿cómo está el tema,
108. Wow.
Equipo 6.
Team 6.
114.
114.
Equipo 7.
Team 7.
112. No sé.
112. Well, I think that you're not sure about it, right?
Equipo 8.
That's fine. Team 8.
128.
128.
Vale, pues de momento tenemos
Okay. So for
estas
now,
clasificaciones.
we have these rankings.
A ver si aparecen.
Let's see if they appear.
Yo tengo que-
Let's see if they show up.
Vale.
Bueno, mientras tanto.
Well, in the meantime, hey, how you doing, John?
Vale, ok. Hay 8
Okay.
equipos. Estas son
So 8 teams here.
las puntuaciones.
These are the rankings.
El equipo 8, de momento,
Team
pues
number
parece que
8,
es el que
for now, it seems
es
that
gran líder, ¿vale?
it is the
Un
one that is
aplauso.
leading. Okay. Big round of
Os
applause.
damos un minuto
So you have
para
1
pensar
minute
estrategia
to
para
think about strategies
mejorar esto.
in
¿vale?
order to improve this.
¿Todo el mundo
Okay.
tiene claro un poco las instrucciones?
Does everybody
Tenéis un minuto
know
para intentar
what the
mejorar la
instructions are?
estrategia.
You have 1 minute to try to improve the strategy.
Vale.
Empezamos en 10, 9,
Okay, so it's
8,
starting 10, 9, 8,
7,
7,
6,
6,
5,
5,
4,
4,
3,
3,
2,
2,
1,
1,
tiempo.
go.
Mira ese grupo lo que se ha inventado. Ponen todos la mano y ella empieza a hacer así. Claro.
Tiempo.
Tiempo.
Time's up, time's up, time's
Un
up.
aplauso.
Big round of applause, please.
Bueno, parece que todo el mundo está contento.
Seems that everybody's
Norma número
happy.
4, silencio, por favor.
Yep. Rule number
Empezamos por
4.
atrás, equipo 8.
So let's get started from the
Equipo
back.
8.
Team number 8. 8.
113.
113. Wow.
Equipo 7.
Team 7.
420.
420.
420.
Ahora hablamos, ahora hablaremos.
420 now.
Equipo
We'll
6.
talk in a minute. Team 6.
330.
330.
Equipo 5.
Team 5. 5.
117.
117.
Equipo 4.
Team 4.
194.
194. Team number 3.
¿Cuánto?
How many?
383.
383.
Equipo 2.
Team 2.
146.
146.
Con dudas. Y equipo
With some
1.
doubts. And team 1.
161.
161.
Vamos a ver
Okay.
La evolución de cada equipo un poco.
So let's see the
¿Qué es lo que ha
evolution of
pasado?
every team. Let's see what has
Empezamos por abajo,
happened.
el 8.
Let's start
Habéis
by
bajado, ¿qué ha pasado?
the bottom team,
Cayó.
number 8.
Vale.
You
Misma
dropped.
técnica.
What happened? So he fell. Same technique.
Un poquito más cerca. Habéis intentado mejorar la
A
técnica,
bit
pero ha
closer.
salido
Did
peor.
you tried to
Okay.
improve the technique, but it
Equipo
didn't
7.
work. Okay, team 7.
Vais líderes. ¿Qué ha pasado?
You
¿Qué
are
habéis
leading.
hecho?
What happened? What did you do?
Otra estrategia.
A different strategy.
Fiable.
No nos la van a decir, creo.
Reliable. They won't tell us about it.
Bueno, veremos.
Well, we'll
Habéis
see.
cambiado de estrategia y ha salido bien.
You changed
Vale.
strategy, right? And it
Equipo
worked.
6.
Okay. Team
¿Cómo ha ido
6.
esto?
How did it work?
Vale. Equipo 5.
Team number 5.
Misma estrategia.
Same strategy, right?
Y habéis mejorado un poco.
And you've improved.
Equipo 4.
Team 4.
Cambiasteis y habéis mejorado bastante, ¿eh?
You changed
Equipo
and
3,
you've
muchísimo.
improved a lot. Team number 3.
Silencio, por favor.
Silence, please.
Vale. Cohesión grupal.
Group cohesion. Okay.
Bueno, es interesante, es interesante.
So it is
Equipo
interesting.
2,
Yep.
habéis
Team
mejorado.
number 2, you've
Habéis
improved.
cambiado de estrategia. Vale.
Did you change
Equipo
strategy?
1.
Team number
Vale.
1.
¿Qué creéis
Okay.
que la mayoría
So
de equipos
what
pues
do
ha
you
optado
think
por hacer?
that the vast majority of
Cambiar-
the teams have done?
O trampas o cambiar de estrategia.
Either
de
they've
estrategia.
they've
Tiene
cheated
sentido,
or
y aquí,
they've
aprovechando ya
changed
que
strategy.
todos
It really
pues,
makes
somos
sense.
psicólogos, ¿no? Del deporte,
And as far as we're
psicólogos,
all sports psychologists,
quizás es interesante en medio de una
maybe
dinámica intentar pensar,
it is interesting in the
¿cuál
middle of a
podría
dynamic
ser
to
la
start to,
reflexión
to
aquí?
try to think,
Si
okay, so
primero
what
habéis
reflection
hecho
could we
una
have here?
técnica en la
If
primera
first
vez
of
de
all
vuestra
you
vida que quizás hacíais este juego,
follow one
quizás
technique, maybe
es
this was the
sensato
first time in
probar
your life that you
otras
did this,
cosas
maybe
que
it
pueden
is
funcionar. Y esto es algo que
sensible
podemos llevar a sesión,
to
siempre hemos hecho
try
las
to
cosas de
prove
una forma,
different
ante
things.
una
Sometimes
situación
we have
nueva,
done things in
podemos
one
apuntar
way,
y
but
probar
in
y
front of a
después
different
cambiar.
situation, maybe we can try and we
Vamos a
can
intentar una
change.
cosa ahora.
So let's try something.
Equipo 1 y 2 vais juntos.
Teams 1 and 2, you're together.
Me tenéis que dar una de las dos pelotas.
Una de las dos
You have to
pelotas.
give me one of the two
Equipo
balls,
3 y
okay?
4
Teams
vais
3 and 4,
juntos.
you are together.
Equipo 5 y 6
Teams
juntos.
5 and 6, you are
5,
together. 5,
5 y 6
5 and
6 está
6,
aquí. Y 7 y 8
and
7
7 and
y
8.
7 y 8 os juntáis.
7 and 8, you will be together.
Uno, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 y 7 y 8.
So we have the 8 teams, okay?
Tenéis un minuto
You
para
have
pensar
1 minute
estrategia.
to think about strategy.
Uno la coge, pone todas las manos y... A ver, creo que... A ver, hay una pregunta que no sé. Porque ellos han dicho que... tiene que estar siempre en la tiene que tocar todos. Pero puede ser que después de tocarlo,
Empezamos en 10, 9,
So we start in 10, 9,
7,
8,
6,
6, 7, 6, 5, 4,
3,
3,
2,
2,
1.
1,
Empezamos.
go.
Sí, lo están sumando.
Tiempo.
Tiempo, tiempo, tiempo.
Time's up,
tiempo.
time's up, time's up, time's up.
Ok. Silencio, porfa.
So, silence please.
Un segundo, vamos a hacer el recuento.
So let's make the counting.
1 y 2, por favor, ¿cuántos?
Teams 1 and 2, how many?
3, 2,
3,
1.
2,
325.
325. 325.
Silencio, porfa. Hey, please. Guys. 325.
325.
Silencio, porfa.
Hey, silence,
Equipo
please.
3 y 4.
Teams 3 and 4.
606.
306.
3 y 4, 606.
No, 606, sorry,
Equipo,
606.
5 y 6.
Teams 5 and 6.
900.
900.
Poco raro.
Equipo 7, 8.
Teams 7 and 8.
980.
980.
La estrategia aquí.
Please, can you tell us a little bit about the strategy?
Un segundo, porfa. Hey.
We apologize, but they are not using the mic.
¿Cuántas vueltas y multiplicabas? Okay. Equipo 5,
How many
6,
rounds have you multiplied? Teams 5 and 6?
Lo mismo. Ey, silencio, porfa. Vale. Equipo 3 y 4, ¿qué habéis hecho?
So teams 3 and 4, what have you done? Okay. We apologize, but they are not using the mic.
Equipo 1 y 2. Equipo 1 y 2. Hey, un momento, por
Teams
favor.
1 and 2. Hey, one moment, please. Teams 1 and 2. Okay.
Okay. Pregunta que no
Okay,
tiene nada que
then.
ver con,
Question that has
la
nothing to
estrategia.
do
¿Cómo
with the
os
strategy.
habéis comunicado?
How
1 y 2.
did you communicate? 1 and 2.
Antes, ¿quién ha decidido cómo ha
So who
funcionado?
decided how it worked?
Vale.
Okay.
Vale.
We apologize again, but they are not using the mic. The students, I mean.
3 y 4, ¿cómo funcionó
3 and
vuestro
4,
equipo para
how
decidir?
did your team work in order to decide?
Okay.
We apologize, they're not using the mic.
Vale. Les puedo preguntar si ha sido así. Vale.
So we
¿Ha
can
sido
ask
así
them
o no?
if that was the case.
No ha
Was
sido
that the
así.
case or not? No, it wasn't. Okay.
Vale. Vale. Y aprovechando que ha habido como un subgrupo que os ha dicho básicamente lo que tenéis
So
que
there has
hacer,
been some
¿qué
kind of
se siente
subgroup that
cuando
has told you what you have to
tienes
do.
una opinión
What do you feel
diferente?
when maybe there's a different opinion?
Que la idea era mala.
That the idea
Hacerlo a veces, ¿no?
wasn't good. We have to acknowledge that, right?
5, 6, ¿cómo ha ido
Yeah,
aquí?
5, 6,
¿Quién
how
ha
did it
decidido?
go here?
Perdón. 5 y
Oh,
6,
sorry,
¿cómo
yeah.
ha ido la
5 and
decisión?
6, how did it go?
Justamente es la misma que al lado, ¿no?
It's the same one as the other one on the other side. We apologize again, they're not using the mic to answer. But could everybody say anything
A la primera y ya me quedo con la primera.
at first? And we
¿Vosotros?
got first one.
¿Cómo ha ido?
Okay. And how did it go? Your case?
Okay.
Okay.
Interesante.
Interesting.
Vamos a hacer la última. ¿Vale?
So let's do the last
Grupo
one.
1, 2, 3 y
Okay,
4 más
groups
5.
1, 2, 3, and
5,
4
6,
will
7,
go
8,
together.
vais
5,
juntos.
6, 7, and 8, you will go together.
Tenéis
So you have
Vale.
No, vengas aquí, que se sigue grabando. Esos son actividades.
Empezamos en 30 segundos empezamos.
Ahora vengo.
We'll get started in 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Empezamos en 10, 9, 8,
So we'll start in 10,
7,
9, 8, 7,
5,
6,
4,
5,
3,
4,
2,
3,
1. Empezamos.
2, go.
Tiempo, tiempo. Por favor,
Time's up. Time's up.
sentaros en vuestra
Please
silla, porfa.
sit
Un
down.
aplauso.
Sit down in your seat. A big round of applause for everyone.
Os podéis... Así vamos terminando.
No, se escucha. Ok, nos sentamos un momento, por favor.
Please take your seats for a minute.
Ok.
Okay.
Empezamos. Una
So,
pregunta,
let's
¿vale?
get
Ya que
started. One
quizás
question.
esto lo utilizaréis en un futuro, yo que sé,
Maybe
como
you will
dinámica,
use this
lo
in the
que queráis.
future, maybe as a
¿Qué
dynamic or
creéis
however you want to call it.
que
What do you
queríamos
think
trabajar con esto
that
que
we
hemos
wanted
hecho,
to
esta
work
segunda?
with you all?
¿Adaptación?
Adaptation?
¿Adaptación de qué, pero?
Adaptation of what?
O sea, que cada uno o que cada equipo se vaya adaptando a una
So that
nueva
every
situación con
team
otra gente, ¿no?
should
¿Qué
adapt
más?
to a different situation. Okay, what
Comunicación,
else?
trabajo en equipo, ¿qué más?
So communication, teamwork, what else?
Flexibilidad.
Flexibility.
Similar quizás a lo de adaptación. ¿Qué más?
So maybe similar to adaptation. What else?
Identificar liderazgos, ok.
To identify leaderships. Okay.
¿Algo más que os venga a la cabeza?
Something else that comes to your mind?
Roles.
Roles.
¿Es lo mismo trabajar con un equipo
Is it the same to
pequeño
work with a
cuando
small
erais,
team
5 o 6 que
when
cuando
it
erais,
was just
20?
5 or 6 of you than when
¿Cuál es la
you were
principal
20?
diferencia, quizás,
Maybe
o
that's the
cómo
main
os habéis
difference.
sentido?
How did you feel?
Yo te he escuchado decir, esto es una dictadura.
I heard that you said this is a dictatorship.
O sea,
Okay.
cuando hay más gente, es más
So when
fácil.
there are more people, it's
Okay.
easier to be quiet.
Vale. ¿Y uno cómo se siente cuando está en una
Okay, and
dictadura?
how do you
cuando tiene
feel
que
when you
callarse?
are in a dictatorship or when you have to be quiet?
Cohibida, okay.
Cohibited.
¿Qué más
Okay.
diferencias veis
What are the
en
differences you
grupos
see
pequeños o
in
grupos
small groups
grandes?
or big groups?
Imaginaros que sois el entrenador o la
Imagine
entrenadora
that
de
you're
un
the
grupo
coach of a
grande
group,
y estáis
a big
viendo
group,
algo que no
and you are
os está
seeing
cuadrando.
something that maybe it's not working for you.
Es mucho más difícil que todo el mundo
It
te
is much
escuche.
more difficult that everybody listens to you, right?
Vale, un tema podría ser el espacio, pero
Okay,
también
maybe
por
one
qué es
topic
más
could be
difícil
space,
que
but
te
why
escuchen.
is it more difficult to be heard, to be listened?
Vale. Hay como
Okay.
descoordinación, ¿no?
There's some kind of lack of coordination.
Si tienes que darle la palabra a cada
If you have
uno,
to give the
quizás
floor
nos
to
pasamos toda
everybody,
la tarde aquí,
maybe we would
quizás
spend the
es más
whole
fácil que uno
evening
tire,
here.
¿no? Yo me callo
Maybe
y
it's
ya
easier
está.
than one moves on and I would be quiet and that's it, period.
Total.
Yeah, that's it.
Antes lo ha comentado Miguel. Hay veces que
this is something Miguel said. Sometimes we have dynamics where it seems that the goal is one, to make X number of passes. But we wanted to see how you interacted among all yourselves. And I saw you there saying, well, I don't know if I'm even touching the ball. These kind of things can happen in the teams. Maybe you have a player that is not even participating of the goal. And we have this player there throughout the whole season. Maybe this player is not playing, or maybe they do not relate to anything. Maybe there are internal problems. But on the other hand, maybe there are leaderships. But how these leaderships should be so that everybody feels part of it. What do you think about it? What could be helpful? What can be help the others feel part of the team? What would you tell this team? We apologize that they are not using the mic. Who has the power of giving an opinion in such groups? That's it. And if I'm a person that I'm not having a voice at that moment, who could detect that? Who should give me the floor? Who should, for example? And what could I do in order to try to do that? We apologize again, but they're not using the mic. I heard something about, well, there's a captain, so on and so forth. There are roles in teams, there are leaderships, and leadership is about understanding what's the need. Maybe we are losing people along the way, and when we have bigger groups, we see that we have that social laziness. If I can skip it, I won't participate. I won't be listened, so I quit. I just move on. And this is what we wanted to highlight with this dynamic. We can lose people along the way. We could be losing strength. Of course, when it's a chaos, we have to find these skills in order to set it. And maybe in the last minute, you have to say, well, now we have to perform. But at least at training sessions, we all need to take this into account, because otherwise we would be losing resources. Should we add anything? You've said absolutely everything. I would add, just in case if you find this kind of dynamic, that we should work on how communication should be in a team, how I can talk to someone that is finding it difficult, or how, from my point of view, from my status, someone that I know that I'm going to be hurt, how can I distribute this power, this role that I have? I'm going to use it for everybody's benefit. How can I talk to people depending on their needs? Okay, depending on their skills. Well, we hope that it has been useful. We hope that it has been fun. You have our emails if you want to send us any emails or whatever. Thank you very much, Luis, Jorge, Ismael, Hannah. Susana's not around. And thanks to the people that are still online. Well, and thank you. Thank you very much. Big round of applause for you all.
¿Me escucha? Sí. Bueno, chicos, muchas gracias.
Okay, guys, so thank you very much to you all.
Thanks
for sharing your passion, your experience, and for having prepared these activities that you've been able to enjoy during this afternoon, and the ones that you've been able to see online, and everything that we've learned. Thank you to Ismael and Hannah. Now Miguel is not with us, but we're very grateful for having us. And well, this is the end of this session. I would like to say thank you. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to everybody online for the passion you have, this will to learn, to be here, and to try to learn more in order to be the sports psychologists for tomorrow. We're here for you, but especially thanks to you. Jorge? Well, I would like to say thanks for coming along. Thanks to all the speakers for sharing your knowledge, your experience, for learning in this in this environment, this fun environment, and knowing the impact that they may have. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thanks for participating, and thanks to everybody that is online. Thanks for participating on this first edition of the Spanish conference of Sports Psychology. Thank you very much.